The sitting is resumed. Honourable for Christchurch West Central.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure, and I wanted to first of all thank those persons from really the fulcrum of Christchurch for coming and give me their support yesterday, as they're listening like so many others to 20,000 seconds almost of one of the best budgets ever presented in this honorable chamber. And Mr. Speaker, if I want to sum it up, it really is a budget that allows us to learn from yesterday, live today, and it provides hope for tomorrow. It provides hope for tomorrow, for the day after tomorrow, for the year after tomorrow. It is a budget that will withstand, Mr. Speaker, the test of time. And although persons may want to instill a measure of fear-mongering before the budget, I hear all type of atmosphere and noises of fear before the budget. I want to see it. Unless I was in some place in the mesosphere, what I heard delivered from the Member of Parliament of St. Michael Northeast was a budget that seeks to balance the economic affairs of this country along with improving the social landscape. It was a well-balanced budget, one that inspired confidence and growth in this country. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm a man that understands musical talent. I understand, just like the Prime Minister, the Member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast, the words of none other than Leroy Kelly's, Black Stallion himself, when he said that we must never surrender. We must always remember that we can make it if we try. Try a little harder. One more try, and we can live a little sweeter. That budget delivered to Barbadians some goodies, man. It allows us to understand that if we try, if we persevere, if you leave the word I can't out of your vocabulary, you can live a little sweeter. I mean, you're talking about sweeter because it has something for those persons who are diabetic too, man. We heard about the machines that will be the new machine, the continuous glucose monitoring machines, that $2 million will be put to so that Barbadians can have a seamless way of monitoring their blood sugar over a period of time. That is the sweetness that we were able to provide for those persons as well. And Mr. Speaker, and when you sit down and understand the words of Black Stallion himself, we have to try. But we can only try if we are inspired by a government who understands that sometimes when you lead and you walk in front of persons, they may not follow. If you walk behind them, they may not have the ability to lead. But if you walk by their side, Mr. Speaker, sir, we can achieve the Barbadian dream. We can achieve the Bajan dream. And that is what this budget delivered to us yesterday. The ability of Barbadians and for Barbadians to live the Bajan dream. And what did it deliver for us, Mr. Speaker? I don't have to repeat. I said it was sedulous, almost 20,000 seconds. It was almost 20,000 seconds of a sedulous presentation that allowed the Member of Parliament to give the confidence and allow that, us to continue on a trajectory of growth and sustainability. But what did it deliver? The moral test of any government is how we treat to the most vulnerable in this society. The moral test. So how did we treat to the children of this country? How did we treat to them? You heard the Prime Minister talk, the Member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast, about the child justice bill that is about to come to this August chamber, and the child protection legislation, so we can protect those who are most vulnerable. You heard her expose it yesterday. But along with that, I want to thank the Member of Parliament for St. Michael's South for championing that cause. and the member of parliament, my brother, Minister from Christchurch East, in terms of the child justice legislation, which seek to rehabilitate that which was archaic and allow young people to forget about the whole issue of wandering, which is, as far as I understand, past the test of time. These are the new innovative things that were delivered yesterday. And it spoke because something that is dear to my heartstring is the Streams program that will allow young persons to use their creative imagination across this country, building up the creative sector, the orange economy, young primary school children. We are seeing about $600,000 or so put to that program where young people can use their creative skills to become somebody in this country and to be able to represent Barbados. Because there was a phrase called yesterday. I probably can't remember the first two words, but you could probably remember them, Mr. Speaker. But it spoke to excellence of Barbados. It was outward and onward, that's what it said. It's excellence of, it spoke of Barbados and the excellence. And we are trying to create star quality Barbadians. So when we start the primary school level with a Streams program that is able to titillate those young people to be the creators and the world leaders and the world champions, the musicians and artists and what's not, they can sell Barbados around the rest of the world. That is what we said. And the Streams program, Mr. Speaker, I think is the most innovative program in terms of creating those people. I want to remind this August Chamber and all Barbados in earshot that a mind string or stretched by a new experience, once it is good, will never go back to its old dimension. And as I said before, I don't mean about the fear-mongering. This was supposed to be a budget yesterday presented with gloom and doom. It was supposed to tax the hell out of Barbadians. That was what I heard. But the fear-mongering, I think people should worry about the fumbling fear. That's what they should worry about. And that camp. And not to provide fear to the hearts of Barbadians who have given this government the confidence to ensure that they can survive the test of time and that their lives could be improved. That is what they told us as a government. Give me the vote and watch me as I seek to transform the lives of Barbadians. That is what this budget spoke about. Not for some person to jump out of a political cocoon to say that it is fumbling going on. Fumbling going on the other side. That's really fumbling going on. And it's associated with the word. You probably fumbled for 10 years too. It was a lost decade of fumbling. That's what went on. I didn't want to say it today because you have to speak truth to power, man. Barbadians can recognize that there has been transformation across the length and breadth of this country. And I only talk about the Streams program because those are for those in the dawn. Almost every single young person in this country, you heard it from the member of parliament from St. Michael North East yesterday, when she spoke about giving young people the opportunities to improve their skills, man. Training must be an essential part of the Bajan conversation. So those young persons who are interested in construction, the Ministry of Education under my girlfriend from St. Philip West has now a construction gateway for all those young persons to train them to be carpenters, masons, joiners, whatever that they want to do, man. Steel benders, you name it. Mr. Speaker, sir, they could come and repair this entire parliament when done. So instead when there is building-related illness or building syndrome, man. That is what we are training young people to do and to be entrepreneurs. Because my good friend from St. John will tell you that 60% of school leavers, 60% have a burning, unequivocal, untethered desire to be entrepreneurs in this country. 60%. And that is what this budget spoke to, giving them the opportunity to own their own business and become part of Barbados and have a tangible stake. That is what this budget spoke to. the young people in this country. And we make no apologies by saying that we are going to give them the opportunities that they deserve in Barbados so they can live the Barbadian dream. We will make it. If we try just a little harder, the words of Black Stallion will resonate in my brain as I sat down and listened, like everybody else in Barbados, with hope and inspiration. And when the budget was delivered, a budget that seeks to bring balance and inspire confidence in this country. But it went a little further. And it said to those young people who work, when you ever heard this happening, Mr. Speaker? I can't remember in another government. I may be a little young. Remember Parliament for St. Thomas looking at me? I can't remember another government in this country who said to workers who work hard over a year period, a financial year, that they didn't get $1,500, man. I ain't never heard it yet. $1,500 in the most difficult of times, so that they could be able to get a little activities going on at the end of the year, a month. $1,500. Mr. Speaker, if you want to put it in US, that's $750, man. If you want to go international, $1,500. And what we have said as a government for those persons, for those workers, and we're talking all type of categories: ash workers, workers from the NHC that were part of that program, those in the COVID that were responsible for the COVID unit and the monitoring of the COVID in this country. Then we have workers, for instance, at the CV program, workers in NCC. All of those workers we capture and say to them, we are giving you $1,500 at the end of this thing to help buttress your efforts. That's what we said, understanding that they are going through a difficult period of time as a responsible government. Although, and albeit, that things are hard and difficult. That's what we said. Never happened before. In 5 years, in 5 years, this government has given 2 pay increases to public servants, man. In 5 years. What happened last time is that you had to pay. Over the last decade, you had to pay. But you began a pay increase under this government. 2 pay increases. Never happened before in 5 years. Check your records. Huh? And it was supposed to be a budget of gloom and doom. Mr. Speaker, I just want to tell Barbadians that under this administration, you have the astute leadership. You have the pigeon-eye leadership. You have the visual acuity that can take this country beyond the new millennium. And I want to congratulate the Prime Minister for delivering yesterday a speech to inspire hope and confidence. It is my personal acronym, HOPE, for helping our people every day. This budget will help our people every day, Mr. Speaker. But it goes further, because they don't have to repeat that which was so succinctly laid for the almost 20,000 seconds yesterday. I don't have to repeat it, but it spoke to the fact that persons in the vulnerable sector, the disabled community, must be exposed to training like everybody else, and must be able to have a tangible stay. That is why I want to congratulate today the Member of Parliament for St. James North for the tremendous work he's doing with those persons with disabilities. I think that he deserves a round of applause. And I'm sure Barbadians will agree with me, because there must become an integral part of this society. They must be given the opportunity, the wherewithal to build up Barbados like everybody else. So I want to congratulate him for that, and the Member of Parliament for St. Michael South, because this is a whole of government approach where everybody works in an interfused way to deliver the best for Barbadians. That is what this budget is. It is to create the excellence and to ensure that the best is there for Barbadians. And that is my acronym for better every single time. Because every single time you wake up on morning, you must be able to deliver better for the country and the citizens of this country. That is why we are here. We are here to deliver better for the citizens of this country and for Barbados. So those are the two categories so far that the budget support. The last one I want to touch on before I go into my speech in detail is, Mr. Speaker, the elderly. Well, it would be remiss of me not to speak of the elderly. I think I would get cursed all every single nook and cranny in Barbados. The elderly dear to my heart. And when they hear about granny dumping, I would tell them, dump all at me, man. I make no apology for that. I can take care of the elderly, man. It pulls, when you talk about strings now, man, it pulls at my heartstring. When we can have Barbadians, this is not who we are. Simple as that. There is no way that we should be having to come in here. The Member of Parliament, St. Michael South, is here, saying to me, to bring legislation to stop people from putting their parents and their aunts and nieces and all the grandmother, you call it, in a hospital at an emergency and dropping it off because they got a new phenomenon known as granny dumping. Never. I'm embarrassed to say so. Should never happen. This is not who we are as a country. Not who we are. And I'm appealing to Barbadians to stop it and stop it now. It destroys the social fabric of this country. It destroys who we are. It destroys our international standing as it relates to human rights. And the right to the elderly must be respected in this country. And that is why we have now a geriatric hospital. A geriatric hospital that is going to be built over the next 18 months. That is why this government said that they're going to put $100 million, man, let me talk the figures, $100 million to ensure that the elderly is taking care of this country in a pristine environment where they can balance the humors in the beautiful aesthetic place called Waterfield Boulevard. You know it, Mr. Speaker, because you are associated with that area of the constituency. And it will deliver, Mr. Speaker, over 400 beds so that the elderly, those that are dear to my heart, can enjoy the twilight of their years. And I make no apology for saying to Barbadians, it is money well spent, man. We have to be serious as a people. We have to be serious as a people. And we have to respect those who are most vulnerable if we want to go all across the world and advertise to everybody. We are Barbadians. That's who we are as Bajans. That's how we do it, but here. Huh? You can't be using those terms, those colloquial terms, and not understand that the basic principles of who we are built by our forefathers, are built by members of this community, Trojans, like the Member of Parliament who sits opposite me, my good friend from St. Thomas, the long-term representative of St. Thomas, who understands how to get to those golden years and who understands the importance of respecting those in their golden years or the twilight of their lives. And it goes further because you have to be serious when you try to analyze with the budgetary statements. You have to be serious and speak truth to power because there were a lot of goodies there. I tell you, I had the goodies, and we have the new constant diabetic monitoring machines too, because when we make you sweet, we can test you. That's what we're saying. But it was a budget that spoke to the transformation in all the sectors across Barbados. You heard yesterday what is happening with the road works, man, all across this country. And how there will be a rehabilitation program for even not only the major roads, but the minor arteries as well. That's what you heard yesterday. You heard about the construction that is going to be happening across this country so we can build out our capital works program. You heard that yesterday from the Member of Parliament of St. Michael Northeast. I want to see persons are talking manzy-pansy, man, if that's a parliamentary word. Manzy-pansy. It's not a parliamentary word.
I don't know if it's a word at all in the vocab.
I am being a neologist today. Don't forget, I'm a different sphere. This is a parliamentary sphere, man. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am saying that it is mesospheric noises, man, being created across this country, making persons from outside believe that Barbadians are living in the worst of conditions. When you hear them speak, what they need to do is to come to the table, man. I mean, the member of Parliament for St. Michael South brought certain former ministers to the table and said, let us discuss. And let us have the discussion, because at the end of the day, all of us are Barbadians. And we need to have the discussions if we are serious about Barbados, if we are serious about protecting this country, if we are serious about protecting the generations and the generations to come, if we are serious about protecting the sperm and the egg, man. Ain't going down to that minutiae. Because you have to get serious about what you are doing. So instead of opening up your mouth to catch glottal fry and talking all sort of foolishness, come to the table and say, this is the type of engagement we want, because we are part of Barbados. We don't live in the exosphere. We don't live in a different country. We live right here. So the discussion must happen here. That is called maturity. And that is called being serious about the country that you live or you reside in. And Mr. Speaker, that is just my preamble. I really have a serious other thing, because, as I said, one thing, as I listened to almost 20,000 seconds yesterday, one thing that remained etched in my mind is the words of Black Stanley himself. We can make it if we try. Just a little harder. Just a little, we can make it if we try just harder. One more try and things will be sweeter. And I'm saying to Barbados, there's no rallying cry for us, if we love this country, to be able to put our hands collectively to the plow and say, we will try a little harder. The avenue and the wicket is there. Remember Parliament for St. Michael North, he said, if you get along hot and it's juicy, you can pull it and hit it for 6. So that is why I'll be able to say to the farmers, and maybe the member Parliament said, Philip South is here smiling, that they get a $2 million or so and loan so that they could do the business of farming in this country, understanding the importance of food nutrition and food security, man. Understanding big fancy words like me, I have to be able to feed yourself and live healthy, along with being able to export that which we could export. That's what I mean. So we incentivizing those farmers. You hear about the feed program, the enfranchisement and drive. Huh? You hear now there's a care program. Everything is happening in every single ministry so that Barbadians can have a better life. We can make it if we try, man. Things will be easier. It will be sweeter. We can make it if we try. You talk about star Barbadians and excellence. That's what you're talking about. Because those are the words that must have that marriage with Barbadians. Star quality. We must be able to say as a global nation, because that's what we are, that we are the best at what we do when given the opportunity. And it's all about providing those opportunities for the average person. It is all about allowing Barbadians to live the Barbadian dream. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I said, my mandate, I have two. The people of Christ Church West Central sent me here to be able to augment their cause. That's my first mandate. Thankfully, the Member of Parliament, the Prime Minister, give me the opportunity to be able to drive the Ministry of the Environment, the green and the blue economy. Sometimes when I put them all together perfectly, I will call it the turquoise economy for the ease of repetition. The turquoise economy. But what are we doing in the green economy? Because that's what we're here to tell Barbadians about, man. If you look around Barbados, what you're saying, I want to hear, man. Barbadians probably repeating on the radio and the TV as I speak, clean and green. Clean and green. And last year, look at Barbados. I don't need the executive chair of UNET to come to tell me, and thankfully she did, that Barbados, and she said we have a biased minister, second only to Nairobi, is the cleanest and most beautiful place that she ever visited. I don't have to be reminded by persons from overseas. I hear it every single time I traverse Barbados. Let's keep Barbados what? Clean and green and beautiful. And so we started with, I told Barbadians last year when I spoke around the same time budgetary proposal, that I will deliver on this country. 60 clean and green sites. I want to report today that I'm at number 56, man. 56 clean and green sites across the land of Barbados, making the place clean and beautiful. And I want to say, I got 4 more to make 60. You know I look age too. I ain't get there too. I will become a sexagenarian, like my good friend from St. Thomas. I will get there because I made a promise. I made a promise to the people of Barbados that I will be creating 60 sites in this country where we will be cleaning the areas that are often disused, man. Or areas that some person may say that is left to follow. Areas that are not aesthetically pleasing. Areas that can cause all types of problems, security and otherwise. I went in St. Philip, South, and the old lady, truly been known, told me, Minister, every bush could be a man. Every man can be a bush. I'm glad you cleaned up that bush there. Because every bush could be a man. Every man can be a bush. When she see bush, there's a possibility that somebody could be hiding in there. So she glad I clean up the area. But it's also to create green spaces. Because it's the plan, man. Along with exercising tracks, we are going to create green commercial enterprise so that persons can utilize this green space to augment the cottage industry. Because we believe that once Barbadians are given the opportunity, they can create their own future and allow them to have a sustainable development that is never seen in this country before. That is what we are saying. So there must be green commercial enterprise, and I'm employing all Barbadians. Come and make the applications at the ministry so we can start to have activities being augmented across the length and breadth of those 56 sites that we did so that Barbadians can sell their products. Call it green commercial enterprise. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, we only recognize the importance of the cottage industry when COVID hit us. The fact that we have to innovate and we have to recreate. We only realize that the cottage industry is what caused us to be here today, Mr. Speaker. And I'm saying that the clean and green sites will allow persons to be able to support themselves with green commercial enterprise across this country. But it goes further, Mr. Speaker. I spoke about the Waterford Boulevard. I spoke about the most natural oasis. I spoke about the most beautiful piece of landscape. 254 acres called the Botanical Garden, Mr. Speaker, sir, the whole of Barbados, I know, can applaud with me to say it is the most beautiful piece of landscape in Barbados now, man. Well done. 10 years of bush. I say, every man could be a bush. 10 years of bush. Every bush could be a man. And then somebody said every bush could be a man too. 10 years of bush. And look what you're having now. A place where persons of all ages, man. I see that I have dogs on there too, because I'm an animal lover. Of all ages, all they're appealing to is those persons that you see signs there. Take up the little poop when there is bathroom emergencies. Take it up, because that is who we are as Barbadians. The conversation must be had. It must be. Because these are things that are very perfunctory. And I think that sometimes we make a mountain of a molehill. If you're walking a dog, it is expected. It happens all over the world. Just take out the deposit and move. Because everybody must be able to enjoy the space. And everybody, you must be able to go down there. I see member partner for St. Thomas down there, balancing her humors, because it is the most natural place. And if you pass there now, you can see the senior gardens going in and the woodland gardens. Just to start. And over the next couple of weeks, we are going to do some work out there so that we can have the festival, the real festival of crop over. We are seeing a place that was neglected, unfortunately so, over 10 years. Nobody can see the beauty of it. I want to thank the member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast for delivering to this country the most beautiful oasis in the Western Hemisphere, man. And when it's finished, it will be the envy of all. I have had a chance to visit botanical gardens in 8 Caribbean countries already. I am saying due to the plans, and I want to thank those persons in the ministry and the consortium too for working and putting together this botanical garden and the master plan for it. Mr. Speaker, sir, I, in December of this year, if I'm correct, brought to this August chamber, hello chamber, a biodiversity action plan. And I said that these are 12 points, strategic action plan for biodiversity in this country, where we will have the communication with all those persons who are the traditional practitioners, have a whole inventory assessment. We will try to augment biodiversity and protect it. 12-step action plan. 12 steps. I said so in Parliament. It was approved in this chamber. It got the blessings of the other chamber. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am proud to report that when I went to COP15, last year, it was in December last year in Canada, there was the coming Montreal Agreement, which spoke to 4 critical areas of investment as it relates to strategic action plan for biodiversity internationally, along with about 23 different declarations. And Barbados was recognized as one of the few countries who had a strategic action plan for the build-out of biodiversity. I said, and I will repeat, by the year 2030, our vision is to have 30% of our biodiversity being realized, 16% on the landscape, and 40% on the hydrosphere, which is the sea. That is what we said as a country. Recognized internationally, because we were one of the few countries that did it, because we understand the importance of species loss, and the importance of biodiversity. I said already, life on this earth started with biodiversity. It will end abruptly without it. We must be able to harness that which is natural. The flora, the fauna, all those things, species. Since the industrial age, we have lost over 100,000 lost species of insects, lost. Over 1 million or so are threatened as I speak. We cannot continue on this trajectory. It is called ecocide. Mr. Speaker, sir, and I want to go on quickly because...
I remember the time is fast approaching. You're perfectly correct, sir. You have 2 more minutes.
You have 2 more minutes. There is the Bridgetown, because I was Minister of the Environment in the year 2021, when all the ministers of Latin America and Caribbean came together in a forum called the 22nd Forum of Ministers of Latin America and Caribbean. And we spoke decisively, and we adopted what is called the Bridgetown Declaration in 2021. And it spoke to a post-COVID economic and environmental recovery. All those things, not only for acute loss and damages, but how do we deal with the chronic loss and damages of desertification, soil erosion, biodiversity loss, the loss of mangroves, the loss of ponds and wetlands, all those things that spoke to, so that Barbados will be well positioned to have that recovery and to stop the ecocide that we are faced with internationally. Those are the plans that we have started and to put in place. Now you hear about the Bridgetown Initiative that will allow countries, small countries, the persons in the tropics, about 3 billion or so, to be able to have those special funds drawing rights, so that in case that there is a catastrophe, that you have, you'll be able to mitigate and adapt to the vagaries of climate change. A very, very unique and noble initiative, the Bridgetown Initiative. And I think that every single Barbadian should go and read it, because it allows the global environmental fund and facility to be able, using a trust fund, of course, to be able to put money to projects rather than to government, which will interfere with the debt and what's not. This is who we are as a people. And it is championed, of course, by our Prime Minister, who had the vision because she understands about the vulnerabilities of small island states. Mr. Speaker, I can speak the whole day today, tell you about the blue economy, what we are doing with the Marine Spatial Plan, because we understand, of course, that we had led, of course, by my friend and my colleague, the member partner for St. Michael South, a definition swap. Never happened in the world before, championed, of course, by our Prime Minister. These are all the things, Mr. Speaker, we are doing to help Barbados progress, to put us on the world map. I must tell you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and each one of us can speak on it. Every single time we travel, the first thing you hear, you're from Barbados? Oh, where you get that Prime Minister from? Are you from Barbados? I want to go come and visit and see what you all are doing as a small country. You all have inspired us. These are big international world leaders who are saying that they are inspired by the visionary leadership of our Prime Minister. Huh? But I want to say to Barbadians, we have to harness that which we have. And we have to nurture that which we have. And we have to be thankful for that which we have. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank the Prime Minister, of course, the member partner for St. Michael Northeast, for bringing an inspired budget. One that will make confidence across this country, for being that political funambulist, balance, and to allow Barbadians to dream for excellence, to be able to aspire to achieve their goals, and to be the best citizen that there can be. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that vision, I want every single person in earshot, probably in earshot, to hear and see me when I'm talking. Vision without action, my friends, vision without action is a mere daydream. Vision without action. And action without vision is a nightmare. It's serious business. Vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. We are going to ensure that Barbadians, under this administration, ably led by the member parliament of St. Michael Northeast, have the visual acuity to dream, live day and night the Barbadian dream or the Bajan dream. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker.
Honourable Member St. Michael West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It would be remiss of me if I did not recognize my constituents from the great constituency of St. Michael West. If it were not for their unwavering support, I would not be here to contribute to these budget debates. As representatives of this great country, we must reflect on our true purpose here. That is the empowerment of our citizens, to protect the most vulnerable in our society. And I'm looking at the member for St. Michael South here. To ensure the education of our youth. To provide a safe and secure environment for our citizens to live in. And as the Prime Minister said last night, to prepare the foundations of this country for future generations to thrive and to prosper. This is our responsibility, sir, our creed. We won't be here forever, none of us. So what we must do is leave a solid foundation for others to lead in this place if our country is to survive this perilous world. That, sir, is what a good government does. We must also be cognizant of the challenges that we face at this time in our history as a small island developing state. The ravages of climate change, Mr. Speaker, are evident everywhere around us on this little rock. You go down the West Coast, you see the shrinking beaches. You see the piling sargassum seaweed, which I was surprised to see coming a bit early this year. I don't understand. I've never seen it before at this time. And Mr. Speaker, let's not talk about the fact that we just came out of COVID lockdowns. Then we were struck with the Russia-Ukraine war, to kick a dead horse, which caused superheated inflation, which affected us on these shores. But we're not crying over spilled milk. But quite the opposite. We are up to the task. I hate to be repetitive, sir, but we need to provide context here, as the Prime Minister likes to say. Despite these many challenges, and of course, it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention pre-2018, the man-made natural disasters that occurred, that we inherited. But I have to say, I don't want to be repetitive, Mr. Speaker, but what have we done? We have improved our bus service. We turned a negative into a positive. And now we can boast of the largest fleet of electric buses this side of the world. I must recognize the Honourable Member from St. Michael West Central for leading that effort. And sir, you heard the Honourable Prime Minister last night. Expect 21 more. Let's not talk about the improved garbage collection as well. We also have positioned Barbados as one of the top renewable energy producers via PV in the world, along with what we already could boast about, which was having the highest penetration of solar water heaters on our citizens' roof. So we have been progressive right through in the faces of peril. Let's not talk about the improved credit rating that we've seen coming from down in the dungeon, climbing our way back up the ladder. We haven't even come to the surface yet, but we will get there, sir. Let's not talk about the fact that we have lowered our debt to GDP ratio from 176% to 120%, as you heard the Honourable Prime Minister say last night. All of this while in an IMF program, facing the challenges that we face as a small island developing states. It's just remarkable, and I'm proud to say that to stand here amongst my honourable colleagues, having achieved these feats. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, the deficit of revenue versus expenditure for the next fiscal year, which, as you heard the Honourable Prime Minister say, is upwards of about 700 million or so, will be financed by local and overseas means. But that was not the fundamental goal of this budget. This budget, as you heard the Honourable Prime Minister say, lays the foundation of national and economic development in this country. This budget really checks off all the boxes, as my honourable colleague who preceded me so alluded to. And in addition, it gives you a cherry on top. Mr. Speaker, read my lips. No new taxes. And as the Honourable Prime Minister said, you cannot tax your way into growth and development. You cannot do it. We are going to get out of the way. We are ready to take off. The plane is ready to take off. And government has to get out of the way and allow growth to happen. We cannot burden our citizens with more taxes. Cannot do it. We will not obstruct the ascent of this economy. and of our people's livelihood, sir. And I'm encouraged to hear the Honourable Prime Minister say that through Invest Barbados, we will seek to consult to remove the obstacles to growth in this economy that is forward-thinking and progressive, always staying ahead. This reminds me of the old Cable Wireless motto, plan ahead to keep ahead. That's what you got to do. So this government will not stand in the way, sir. We will not be an impediment to the growth and the business facilitation in this country. So the key to success of this budget will be on the growth of our economy. We have to protect it from exogenous shocks as best we can. This small, open economy is most vulnerable, as illustrated by the Russia-Ukraine war, from the shocks of rising energy and oil prices, sir. I think in 2021, I stand corrected here, but we spent something like $600 million on oil imports. Fast forward to 2022. Because of the effect of that war and the post-COVID rising demand, we spent double that. For a small country like Barbados, it is hard to bear this, just so. So you heard the Honourable PM mention last night that we will place importance on the National Energy Plan, which will be amended to be the National Energy Investment Plan. So what do we have to do, Mr. Speaker? We have to secure our energy independence by ensuring that we can facilitate investment in emerging technologies like hydrogen fuel storage. The Honourable Member from Christchurch West will tell you he's leading the initiatives there. But also in old school traditional technologies like pump storage. Because we need to make sure that we can have those interconnections back on the grid. This is tantamount to our strategy in the whole project. How can we make sure that we can offer mortgages at reduced rates to our professionals like policemen and teachers without having that? So we need to get that started again. As I said before, we got to plan ahead to keep ahead. So we'll be looking at those measures, and the Honourable Member from Christchurch West will be leading that charge. But sir, in addition to that, as you heard the Honourable Prime Minister say last night, we have to look at productivity, efficiency, and service in this economy. So I'm encouraged about the program to train supervisory managers on efficiency, productivity, and service through the NTI and through the National Productivity Council. And yes, Mr. Speaker, increased productivity also has a positive impact on GDP. Work smarter, not harder, and you will get a greater output. Implementation of technology will also have that impact, sir. So you heard the Prime Minister talk about measuring the gross national product. What can we produce in this country? It can't always be about sun, sea, and sand. So the Prime Minister mentioned that we will be building a national film industry. And now this is something that we can get more young people to find jobs. This is something that we can earn foreign exchange through. That is production, sir. And in addition to that, I'm encouraged by the investment of $15 million in the Ministry of Agriculture to develop a tissue culture lab, which will be key to boosting our exports in produce and value-added produce to the markets at the UK and the US. So as she said, we'd be glad to get back to the days where we will put sweet potatoes, and you'll find sweet potatoes in UK supermarkets, sir. These measures are needed to again create resilience, sir, through being self-sufficient in earning more foreign exchange and achieving the goal of diversifying our economy. But Mr. Speaker, I'm honored to be able to play a role in facilitating growth in this country, because growth is vital for this budget to work. Growth in the economy through the many projects that the Barbados Tourism Investment Inc. is involved in. So when the Honourable Prime Minister appointed me the chairman of that statutory corporation in 2018, and I looked up its mandate, I immediately acquiesced, because in its mandate was the rejuvenation of Bridgetown. And my colleague to my right, the Honourable Member from the City of Bridgetown, we both hold that city in our hearts, sir. So she had me there. But little did I know that I would have the chance at nation building through honourable projects like the geriatric hospital, sir. And as the Honourable Member from Christchurch, West Central, just said, our elderly will be able to appreciate the natural beauty that you have built, sir. Congratulations. Like Golden Square Freedom Park, sir, an investment in our cultural heritage in a green space. You see it today, how it's being used by our citizens. And in the not too distant future, Archers Bay Park in St. Lucie, the building of a national green space in St. Lucie. Beautiful, beautiful. For our citizens. The member to my right is smiling. He liked that talk. But sir, projects like Road, rediscovering our Atlantic destiny, brings us back to our roots, as the Prime Minister said last night. Transforming Queen's Park to be the cultural hub of Bridgetown, of the Caribbean. Now, when I think about that project, it really is beautiful, because we're looking at not only relocating the National Cultural Foundation's headquarters in Queen's Park, but we're looking at the building of an amphitheater on the site where Marcus Garvey gave his inspirational speeches about the pilgrimage to the motherland, sir. And I reflect on my familial ties with Bridgetown and the fact that my great-grandmother, Alexandrina Gibbs, was a Garveyite. Like my Honourable Member for St. Michael East and Israel Level. And they both embody the principles of Marcus Garvey by being part of the UNIA, United Negro Improvement Association, by teaching night school, teaching kids to read in Reed Street and Westbury Road, sir. And just like the Honourable Prime Minister, who has great ties to Queen's Park as well, through her grandfather, the Mayor of Bridgetown, who fed people in that place. Now, she said last night that the renaming of that place will be up to the citizens of Barbados. But, man, to be named after her grandfather would be quite apt for the efforts he has made in that place, sir. So it gives me great pride to be part of that. And in that amphitheater, I can just envision the youth in our country asking questions of the elite and the common man alike, seeking to arrive at political and ethical truth, sir. This is the vision we have for our youth, emanating with self-confidence. Mr. Speaker, sir, construction, as the Honourable Prime Minister said last night, will have to play a leading role in this movie. With the many projects slated to start this upcoming year, this economy is poised to offer many opportunities for our citizens, but with the right skills. And as the Honourable Prime Minister said, I echo her in urging Barbadians to take advantage of the many free courses being offered by the NTI and the Construction Gateway Initiative. If 100 jobs are available, for argument's sake, I want to see 99.9 going to Barbadians, sir. Let our young people benefit from the construction of the Hyatt. Let our young people benefit from the opening of Sam Lord's. Let our young people benefit from the construction of Indigo. Let our young people benefit from the Pierhead project. Finally, these projects alone are close to about $1 billion in investment, sir. Investment that will pave the way for us to grow from jobs, especially in the urban areas where deviancy and poverty are on the rise. But sir, nothing we have done is by accident or surprise. You would recall that we passed the National Vending Bill last year, decriminalizing vending, restoring dignity to our vendors in this country. So with all this construction in the Bridgetown area, where you think the construction workers going to eat? If I'm a construction worker from St. Lucie, I ain't going back to St. Lucie to eat, to get macaroni pie. I'm going to look for some food in Bridgetown from the same vendors that we empowered. So nothing happens in a vacuum here, sir. This is called planned development. This is how the money really trickles down. Not trickle down economics like our friends far and away and overseas, but empowering our citizens to craft their own destiny and be masters of their own universe, sir. Empowering generations. And as the Honourable Prime Minister said, creating generational wealth. That is the goal here of this budget, sir. I must say, Mr. Speaker, that I am proud of this government, a government that keeps its promises, sir, to its people. When we asked the country to share in the burden, when the debt was restructured, it was not an easy thing to ask. So it warms my heart that we can now repay over 5,000 to 5,400 bondholders, receiving $17,500, and half of those fully repaid. Promises made, promises kept, sir. It warms my heart also that we can extend the $1,500 to the ASH workers and the COVID workers, sir. This is a truly empathetic government that cares about his people, cares about the success of its people, sir. And then the inclusion of our nurses in the schedule of the public officers' loan and traveling allowances. and the creation of the 18 additional specialty nurses is on my mind. And this says to our frontline workers, thank you. Thank you for being there for us in our time of need through the dark days of COVID. Sir, we set the tone that this government is not only just about an economy, but we are about a society. We will be good stewards of the economy, for sure. However, this society means something more to us. And this government will continue to have that empathy, not just through words, but as you heard the Honourable Prime Minister say last night, through action. So in closing, sir, I am proud to be part of an administration that understands the needs of its people. This budget is highly aspirational, progressive, and transformational. We will invest in our youth with specialized skills like cybersecurity. We all know that we need that now with the increasing threats that we've been seeing. And as the Honourable Prime Minister said, let's not forget the honourable professions of being a plumber, an electrician, a tailor, a mason. These are things that the world needs still. Reforming our education system will also be a key driver of our goal to becoming world-class by 2030. This, along with working with the UWI to make sure that that institution can produce young people who are better suited to the needs of a modern economy. We can no longer tolerate square pegs in round holes, sir. We need people that can hit the ground running and make an immediate impact to our economy. I'm highly enthused and encouraged by our investment of $8.5 million into the Barbados Youth Advanced Course, sir. This, along with the $12.5 million in the new crime prevention program, with that latter entity helping to prevent our young people from falling through the cracks, sir. And a society is also judged by the way it treats its elderly. So the investment of $32 million additionally into the welfare department ensures that we can chart a path of growth and progress and ensure that our vulnerable groups in this country are looked after. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government will chart the path, pass the necessary legislation, and provide all the tools necessary to becoming world class. However, sir, it really is up to our citizens to buy into this. Without them, none of this will be easily achieved. As such, we need Barbadians to be masters of their destiny, to create intergenerational wealth, to educate themselves to the need of the new world. We are a very resilient people, no doubt. We have overcome the challenges of COVID, the freak storm, Hurricane Elsa, ashfall, global shocks that ensued. But sir, this resilience was obviously handed down to us from our foreparents. And as we chart the path to prosperity, as brothers and sisters, hand in hand, we look forward to a better Barbados for our children and for our grandchildren. Our rallying cry will be Barbados upward and onward. Bajan excellence 2030. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Member for St. James South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to join my colleagues today to speak about the budget that was delivered by the Honourable Member for St. Michael North East yesterday. Upward, onward, transformation that will take us to Barbadian excellence. That hits the right note for Barbados at this point in time. Sir, we are in very turbulent waters, and we are in an era where there are not many people looking out for us. We've got to look out for ourselves. And what I have to say about the budget that was presented to this Honourable Chamber yesterday, it was looking out for Barbadians, looking out for our economy, looking out for our future. It was excellent. It was broad in its scope, but it was also extremely innovative in the approach that it used to be able to achieve the objectives. Prior to this, sir, there were a number of people in the public space doing a fair amount of fear-mongering. So no doubt yesterday a number of Barbadians would have been listening to hear what would have come with this new budget. And the Honourable Member for St. Michael North East so cleverly said, let us put everything up front. You're looking to hear about taxes. Well, let me tell you about taxes. There will be no new taxes in this budget. And that fear-mongering, sir, went the length and breadth of the land, warning Barbadians that their taxes were going to increase, they were going to get layoffs. Sir, they even went so far as to go into Durance Village and disturb the night's sleep of the 300 residents out there to carry this message of doom, gloom, job losses, and more taxes to frighten the people in Durance Village. Sir, the surprise was, what really surprised me was how limited was the scope of their alternative message to Barbadians. What was surprising to me is that the advisors that gather around that distinguished person could only advise that the options open to any government of Barbados.
Should I the correct adjective that you just used? You might have inappropriately used a word, but it's okay. Continue.
I'm being diplomatic. I'm being diplomatic.
Continue,
I'm being diplomatic. That the only options left to a government of Barbados faced with these circumstances would have been taxing or laying off people. And that tells you what they would do if they were to occupy this chamber at this time. Because their thinking, their strategic planning does not go beyond the concept of taxing and laying off people. That is why I myself was not surprised then when the talk was around excessive borrowing, trying to persuade Barbadians that we are borrowing so much that we are endangering the country, and therefore, look out, we're going to collapse. That this Barbados Labour Party government cannot be trusted with the management of our affairs in difficult circumstances. Now, what does that tell us about what they would have done were they in our position? It meant that when you drop to the bottom of the well with 2 broken feet, no way to get out, if someone stood at the top of the well and let down a ladder and said they would allow us to use the ladder if we were prepared to pay a fee to be able to use it and come out, they would have said no. They would have left Barbadians at the bottom of that well, broken, bleeding, no jobs. Social services would have been under pressure because in their mind, the best way to have dealt with that situation was not to restructure the debt, not to borrow any money, but to allow Barbadians to suffer during that COVID pandemic. That is what they would have done. And I'm trusting that Barbadians understand the implications of the types of messages that are being sent by persons on the other side who are seeking to put themselves forward as persons capable of managing this economy and taking Barbadians somewhere. They would not have borrowed. They would have allowed us to suffer, as though suffering at the bottom of the well was going to create money that we would eventually be able to pay cash to get ourselves out of the well. Does not make sense. Do not know what they are doing. They had no plan to earn any money. They had within themselves the self-doubt that they could inspire confidence in anyone in the world to buy the plan that they were going to put on the table to allow us to borrow money. I want to remind the public through you, Mr. Speaker, the reason why they had to be printing money via the central bank was because they had so mismanaged this economy. Nobody was willing to lend us money. Correct. Because they recognized that we were on a course for disaster. What we did when we came into office was to so manage the affairs, set out plans for restructuring of the debt, set out plans for the recovery of the economy, that it inspired confidence by people not only domestically, but people in international organizations, so that we were able from that position to command loans from the IMF, the World Bank, places all across the world who said we can give Barbados a chance because they have good government. That is what happened. And we have to thank the Honourable Member for St. Michael Northeast and the team here for the tremendous work that was done in developing those economic plans, but more importantly, executing them to the point where they were able to succeed and we were able to manage mission critical. But I want to say to Barbadians that repositioning the Barbadian economy is going to take time and it's going to take hard work. And that's the message I want to give to all Barbadians, and especially to the constituents of St. James South. They would have been listening eagerly yesterday, sir. One, they would have been concerned about if there were taxes. I've got pensioners, sir, that their pensions are very small. Some are not going to expand in any possible way. They don't have, some of them don't have the assets that they would like to have to be able to meet the ever-changing prices that are going on in our Barbadian economy. And sir, they would have been listening eagerly to hear what is really going to happen. They would have listened with some trepidation. I also have in St. James South, sir, a number of middle-income families and working-class families who right now are in urgent need of jobs. And therefore, they would have experienced some level of relief when they heard in that budget that there were a number of initiatives that were going to be of help to households and initiatives of help to the young people. So I start with the young people. I'm very happy that we're going to be able to put back those programs like the Youth Advanced Corps, where now we're going to be able to expand to take in close to 1,000 students so that we are able to make a dent within a group that right now is under pressure. They're under pressure and stress because some have come out from school and there are no jobs. There are difficulties in the home. There's conflict in the home. They're under pressure on the block that if you want to get ahead, if you want to meet your needs, you have to come over here and get involved in criminal activities. They needed to get some hope yesterday and they got just that. The Youth Advanced Corps is going to be there for them. They would have heard in the crime prevention program that there's going to be the Start Wise program that is going to allow them to have the opportunity, sir, to be able to engage in activities where they are learning skills and can then deploy those skills across the economy so that they can earn a living and hold their heads up. They would have heard about the First Jobs Initiative, sir, which would allow those who never had a first-time job, who have just come out of school to be able to find themselves apprenticed to a group or to a craftsman that would allow them to be able to get some work experience and to share with people that they are capable of working and that they can trust them to give them a job. That is what they would have heard yesterday. They would have heard, sir, that the Adopt a Family program is really, really going to happen, and that close to 1,000 families are going to get very special attention in this country. Those who haven't just fallen down, they've fallen down a deep well and don't know how to get up or to get out. The stress levels would have been high. This is what would have been happening in some of the families in my constituency, and they were relieved to hear that that Adopt a Family program of 1,000 families, that a number of them will be included in that program, and that they will find the help to be able to break the back of poverty that has been dogging them and their family for the last 15, 20 years, sir. They would be happy to hear that. Sir, it isn't only the young that would have been pleased with what they heard yesterday. I have a number of people, pensioners, who, sir, have worked all their lives. Some of them have had good jobs, but they've been retired 10, 15 years now. And the pension that was adequate when they first retired is no longer meeting that need. Some of them would have had money, sir, in bonds. Some of them would have found themselves in situations where they had a lump sum of money and may have invested it in some activity in the country, and then found that they were challenged to be able to recover that money. Sir, this is what I call a piece of good economic driving. You owe money. You have to pay down your debt. And there are a number of debtors that you could have found the time to pay. But, sir, a master stroke is when you decide that you are going to put that money to your Series B bonds so that you achieve two marvelous objectives all at the same time with one stroke. That you've reduced your debt because you've paid it back, but you're now giving to thousands of pensioners who would have had Series B bonds $17,000 of their money back. Sir, that is to be congratulated. It's a master move. It's a master move. But, sir, the joy of my heart was the reverse mortgages. I have seniors who have homes that they've already completed their payments on them. Some of the homes are in good shape, and some are beginning to feel a little tired and getting a little run down. And that is a challenge to a senior person, sir, because you want to be able to live in your home until you pass. But if it's deteriorating around you, if it is falling down around you, if your children are not here and they're living overseas and are not in a position to be able to take care of you as a senior, it's a frightening place to be, sir. And therefore, the reverse mortgage is a lifeline for them to be able to take the equity that is in their home and to be able to convert it into some cash where they can use that to continue to take care of their medical bills, where they can take care of keeping a vehicle on the road, where they could repair the home, where they could help a granddaughter who may want to go to university. You have no idea as to what a tremendous blessing finding a way to do the reverse mortgages is going to be to the seniors of this country, and especially for me, the seniors in St. James South. Sir, I believe they're clapping hands all like no. But that's not all that the seniors have been able to get from out of this, because this government has recognized that within a few years, the majority of Barbadians are going to be over the age of 60. We have an old population, an aging population. And the issue, sir, of being able to take care of yourself, NCDs, is creating a major problem for us. And this is especially true within the seniors group. And therefore, the initiatives in health to help us, especially with the issue of diabetes, where we've been losing limbs, sir, where we become the amputee capital of the world. Being able to better manage our diabetes is going to be important. And so the initiative put by government to be able to make available equipment for the proper monitoring of diabetes is going to be important. But in addition to that is also the work that's going to be done with Cuba. Cuba has created some medicines which they believe, and some treatments which they believe will reduce the need for the amputation of limbs so that there's better healing and recovery for the average person suffering with diabetes. And the government is engaged with the Cuban government discussing ways in which we can make something like that available to Barbadians. So there are things here to help everyone, including our seniors. But another sweet piece for the seniors would have been the income tax allowance, which was raised by $5,000. It's up now to $45,000. And sir, this is going to be good for them because a number of them have been very concerned about having worked all their lives, earned money, and now that they're in their retirement, their pensions and additional income that they'll be getting is being taxed. And therefore getting that allowance, sir, would be very welcome to them. What's the result of that? That our seniors are going to live better within their community. Their old age is going to be much more comfortable. The community elder care program, sir, requires special commendation. Loneliness is a terrible thing. I've seen this among our seniors. Active people who are accustomed getting up and going to a job every day that engaged them, engaged their expertise, gave them a sense of purpose, a sense of worth, being affirmed in those jobs. And then suddenly you're retired and you find yourself in a situation where, sir, you are unable to contribute in a meaningful way, to be able to share your knowledge. And the community elder care program helps because it provides the opportunity for intergenerational connection, where young people are able to go into their homes to give them the necessary help, but they're talking, they're sharing, they're able to get together and discuss views, things that they're watching on television, the news, etc. And this is an excellent way to begin rebuilding intergenerational activity so that we can be one whole community again. Now, sir, I want to move to a couple other things I had wanted to share in that crime prevention program that I think is very important. One of the things that I see it addressing is the whole issue of the social fabric of Barbados. It has been tearing. We've seen the increase in crime. We've seen the lack of consideration, even basic consideration that you would expect between two ordinary human beings that would be shown from neighbor to neighbor. That fabric has been tearing as people have become more self-focused and more interested in themselves than in their neighbor. And therefore, being able to repair that fabric is going to be important. And I see that what we have within this budget, sir, are activities that will help us to do that. One that will be critical is the area of parenting. For a long time, I've spoken about the absolute necessity of our having a parenting program, because what we have is a circle that has been broken. We have some parents who no longer share certain values that we have prided ourselves on having as Barbadians. And those parents are parenting a new generation. And we're seeing it turn up in the schools. This is what is making it very challenging in the schools for teachers to be able to communicate and to train our young. And therefore, putting a parenting program in place and providing coaching is going to be important. So for me, I see St. James South and our families are going to be surrounded by a ring of programs that will help us to repair the social fabric, to give opportunities for jobs and learning, and to give people a sense of hope. And we are indeed grateful for it. Because unless we take these steps, we will lose Barbados. And I want to encourage all of the young people through you, sir, that if they want to get ahead in life, they have to go to school and learn well. I always remember the mighty sparrow. They have to engage. And I pledge to them that I will work with them to help them get on board with the Construction Gateway Project, the Cybersecurity Project, the National Training Initiative Project. I have big plans for St. James South and know that we are in a position, sir, to get the funding to allow some of these things to occur. That I want to work with them to help them to re-engage with the opportunities in Barbados, that they can feel that Barbados is a part of them and that they have a part in Barbados and that they have a hope and a future and a dream here. Community policing. Sir, you may remember that when the various ministries came into the well, the Commissioner of Police spoke about the fact that community policing is going to be restored. Sir, it was an excellent program. It produced results. And I'm very happy and pleased to hear that in this year's budget, it is part of the OAG's program to reinstitute it, and that Haynesville will be one of the areas that will be able to get the benefit of the presence of the police building relationships, not there in a controversial capacity, not there in an adversarial capacity, but there as a part of the community, caring and looking after them and working with them and assisting them in building their community. Sir, I am very pleased with that. But along with St. James South, I am happy, sir, to note that in the budget, there was tremendous attention paid to the rebuilding of the Barbadian economy. And this is absolutely necessary because we hit such a hard rock during COVID, where it knocked out significant levels of our GDP. And we have been seeking to reclaim the space. And last year, we were able to climb up 10, 11% of what we've lost, but we have to go further in order to bring us to the pre-2019 levels and to go beyond. And so yesterday, sir, we would have heard about the efforts to boost tourism, what we're doing in terms of airlift, how we're going to stabilize the financial services. But more than that, it was opening new frontiers. We heard yesterday about the monies that will be spent on the tissue lab to help us regain and export in sweet potato production. Oh, this is important. This is important not only for creating jobs, getting exports, but sweet potatoes are a necessary part of our fight with NCDs, sir. We also heard that we are going to be looking at our oil and gas. Now, that one is of interest to me because I believe strongly that there is a role for Barbados to play in the oil and gas sector. I pray that we can find the natural gas, that we can take it and use it to create hydrogen, that we can create the bridging fuel that will allow us to transition from the fossil fuels and be able to transition to the clean energy fuels. I believe that these things will give Barbados the kind of funds in the future that will allow us to build a Barbados that works for everyone. But the question is, sir, how are we going to get there? And how will the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, and the Ministry of Energy and Business play a role in helping with building out a new Barbados, opening up of new economic sectors? First of all, we've organized ourselves, sir, to develop a program of commercial diplomacy, recognizing that we don't have all the funds to be able to hire as many people as we need to promote Barbadian goods and services abroad. We have sought to deepen and intensify the work within our missions wherever they are across the world, from Washington all the way down to Brazil, all the way, sir, to Kenya, to Ghana, and we're planning to open a few more, and you'll probably hear more of that later. But the idea is to be able to ensure that we equip our staff in these missions with strong commercial diplomacy skills so that they can be effective in promoting the products and services which Barbados is going to be offering to the world. Because a lot of work has been done by the Ministry of Industry in terms of Export Barbados and Invest Barbados to be able to identify the new products that we want to produce, to look at services that we want to trade in, and therefore it is important that we're able to do the marketing and promotion in such a way as to be able to gain the export trade that is required to build our gross domestic product and to be able to secure jobs for Barbadians. In addition to that, in the Foreign Trade Division, we are working with CARICOM on the Common External Tariff, and we're working on the SIMSU Pro. These are two essential projects that will help boost regional trade for our production. It's important that we establish a common external tariff, sir, that promotes access of regional goods to our regional markets, and we do that by protecting it from excessive external competition. And this is why the relationship with Guyana and Suriname are so important, what we're doing in terms of food and food security and agro-production. This is the start of that. Along with that is the SIMSU Pro. The SIMSU Pro is a regional portal that was launched earlier this year, finally, which allows the producers of goods in the region to be able to put their products on this portal so that it is available for all to see who want to purchase regional goods. And this is going to be followed up, sir, by the CARICOM Secretariat doing promotions in a number of islands in order to encourage manufacturers to put their goods there. This is the only way we're going to boost sales and therefore get the economic growth that is going to give jobs to Barbadians and earn the foreign exchange which we need. The worst thing we can do is to be creating more and more entrepreneurs, and you do not have market space for them to be able to be successful. All we will do is create a feeding frenzy where the enterprises are gobbling up each other and cannibalizing each other, and the economy cannot grow under those conditions. And therefore, the work that we're going to be doing with the CET and the SIMSU Pro and commercial diplomacy will be absolutely essential. But we don't stop there in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. We're going to be working with our diaspora, and I have responsibility to develop the program to help us expand our connections with the diaspora and to work with the other ministries in looking at how we're going to create a diaspora economy, how we're going to create the opportunities for investment, opportunities for philanthropy, how we're going to be able to use their skills. Some of them have some cutting-edge skills that we are going to need in order to boost Barbados's capacity in a lot of the economic activities that it wants to undertake, whether it's the oil and gas, whether it's agriculture, whether it's in climate, whatever it's in, we need to be able to tap into our diaspora to get those skills to help us build out these sectors that we can move Barbados forward. From the Ministry of Energy and Business, one of the main supports that we will be giving to the effort to broaden the economy, sir, is in the National Quality Program that will be run by the Barbados National Standards Institute. In order to trade, you have to meet the standards of that country. There's no renegotiating those or negotiating those away. It means that Barbadian enterprises and Barbadian workers have to step up to understand the standards, maintain the standards, and for companies to actually invest money that will allow them to have the equipment and the training that they need in order to meet the standards that are going to be important if we're going to produce goods. So the excellent work being done by the member of St. Michael North, where Export Barbados will be dealing with the life sciences and the production of new foods that we want to be able to export, new products. It's going to be important that that is undergirded by a quality program so that we make sure that those goods meet whatever standard it is internationally that is required. And so in the Ministry of Energy and Business, the BNSI is going to be working with establishing a series of standards for a number of sectors. They've already done that for construction with 10,000 houses being built. It's important that we make sure that the standard used for the construction of those houses will give persons who invest in them the comfort and confidence that it will stand up to a certain category of hurricane winds, that it will withstand a certain level of, if you had an earthquake or whatever is the case. These are the things that are important, and they have worked on the construction industry to make sure that standards are available to guide it. Also, in relation to photovoltaics, we are encouraging Barbadians to put photovoltaics on their roof, but we have to make sure, sir, that the photovoltaic cells and panels that come into this country are able to deliver, are able to maintain their life, so that that investment does not die in 7 years. No, they're supposed to be able to stand up to 20 years. We have to make sure that Barbadians don't get robbed by not knowing what level of quality is necessary for the photovoltaic cells for their roofs. So this is how we are going to be supporting this tremendous effort, sir, in relation to building out that new economy. Now, an exciting part of our program, sir, is the development of Bay Street. It captured my imagination from the first moment I heard it. That what we need to do is to actually renew what is there and make the best use of probably one of the best beaches and beachfronts in Barbados. But what is wonderful about it isn't just that it is a redevelopment area for tourism, but rather it is going to include the average Barbadian being able to be a part of that redevelopment. That along with the hotels and the other big investments, spaces are going to be created for the ordinary Barbadians to have their shops, to be able to sell their goods and services, from the very tiny micro enterprises to your small enterprises are going to have an opportunity in that space. And I'm really looking forward to working together with the other entities that have responsibility for that to ensure that we secure a space within that Bay Street development plan for the ordinary Barbadian, the ordinary entrepreneur. And the planning gains that are designed to come from out of that program to be able to renew the geographical areas immediately surrounding Bay Street, to give them the opportunity to be upgraded. Sir, that is a very, very welcome program, and the government is to be applauded for that type of inclusive planning to allow Barbadians to be a part of what is happening across the country. Now, sir, how are Barbadians going to participate in this budget? How are they going to participate in the opportunities that it will bring? All of us have come from off of the plantation, sir. All of our families came off the plantation. Very few of us were born into a plantation family where we had money. And having assets has been a challenge for the average Barbadian to be able to put up as collateral. And so revamping and replenishing access to finance is going to be very important if we are genuinely going to help Barbadians to participate in the opportunities that we find in this budget. And that is why being able to replenish the trust loans, being able to take fund access and help fund access to continue its work in providing loans to average Barbadians, the restructuring of Enterprise Growth Fund, these are important things that have to accompany this budget in order to allow the ordinary Barbadian to have a real, genuine chance of participating in those opportunities.
Your Honourable has 2 more minutes.
Thank you. What we recently launched, sir, was the Junior Stock Exchange. The Junior Stock Exchange is a program by the Ministry of Energy and Business designed to provide another avenue for businesses to be able to get access to capital. And here we're not talking about loans. Loans have to be repaid. Within a month of getting that loan, you have to start repaying. Some businesses have long gestation periods, sir. And therefore, some of them may take up to a year and a half before they really generate some money that they can safely start to give back anything. And that is why equity financing is important. But we recognize that in order to make that a successful venture, we have to do the training with Barbadians to help them to understand venture capital, equity financing, to help them to understand the effective management of their companies, of their finances. And this is why the financial literacy is another important support program that will help us to prepare people to get involved in the Junior Stock Exchange program. So, sir, there's a lot of work to be done. As I said earlier, repositioning takes time and it takes hard work. But here is what I want to say to Barbados. I believe that this year is going to be a year of bearing fruit. We have worked hard to prepare the ground, to prepare the seed and plant seed in a number of different sectors in Barbados. Agriculture, housing, tourism, oil and gas, entrepreneurship. We've done a lot of work. But we now need, sir, to see our efforts producing fruit. And sir, that comes because Barbadians understand the plan that we've laid out before them, and they are prepared to improve and increase their productivity. You see, there are 4 options that are open to countries when they're trying to deal with a crisis: taxing, laying off, reducing services, or we can produce more and work hard. As Barbadians, if we want to preserve the life that we've become accustomed to, the services that we've become accustomed to, if we want to give our children even more than they have today, it is going to be important for every single Barbadian to make up his or her mind to find their place within the economy, to find a place within the society where they can work hard and help to build back Barbados so that Barbados can race ahead to a positive and profitable future. And so to Barbadians, I would like to say, let us bear fruit. We are capable of it. We have the talent. We have the ability. We now have before us the vision and the plan. We have the resources. Let us now, with all of our might, put our hands to the plow. Let us work together and be able to take Barbados forward by playing our part in making this an efficient economy, an effective economy, and more importantly, a caring society. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Honourable Member St. James North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I first wish, of course, as I always do, to pay homage to the people of St. James North for giving me the opportunity to make this my first budget speech in my 2nd decade as a member of this Parliament. I wish to say that this is the best possible budget speech, sir, and I prefer to call it a second reading speech in the Appropriation Bill, because that is effectively what it is, sir. Speech arising from the estimates which we have voted for to continue the operations and administration of this country for the next fiscal year. So this is the best possible speech that a Minister of Finance could have delivered in this Parliament on behalf of the people of Barbados. No new taxes, sir. The main opposition party clearly has egg on its face when as soon as it was announced that we would have a budget speech, sir, first thing they said was how new taxes will come into effect. Well, I think all of us in here knew that that was not going to be the case, sir, because that is not how a caring government operates. That is how a government or an administration that was bereft of ideas, creative, visual, visionary, or otherwise operated, sir, but that's not how this Barbados Labour Party operated, sir, or operates. Therefore, no new taxes, sir. Within the context of an economy that has grown by 10%, over 10% last year, coming out of the wake of the most terrible crises that a small island, vulnerable developing state such as Barbados could have been enthralled in the three previous years. Sir, tourism is up to almost pre-pandemic levels, sir, and that, of course, is pleasing to me as a member of Parliament of a constituency in the heart of the tourist belt, where people's jobs were seriously affected during the pandemic to the extent that 85% of the households in St. James North had at least one person who lost their jobs during that period. And therefore, it is pleasing to me to see the efforts of the Ministry of Tourism, sir, led by the Honourable Member of Christchurch of St. Michael West Central, who is right fitted in the job, and previous ministers of tourism, sir, in bringing back tourist numbers back to where they were. Of course, we now have to look at increased length of stay of tourists, and of course, the continuation of the welcome stamp will assist in doing that. But, sir, I want to speak in terms of the transformative elements of the budget within the context of our people, sir, because this is what really is of import and why we are here, sir, to represent people and to make lives better for our people, and the transformative effects of this budget in terms of our society. And the training programs, sir, the buttressing of training programs within the context of training for supervisory management staff, for instance, for improved management and productivity and accountability and transparency, and to equip both our public servants and those in the private sector, sir, with skills which are beneficial and transferable is of prime importance, sir. Because we need to increase our productivity in this country. We need to ease our capacity and ability to deliver and to do business in this country, and to make it easier for our citizens to facilitate business and in their daily lives, sir. Therefore, training of supervisory management staff is key. I think we all recognize, sir, that one of the failings of our country and of our administrations is in supervisory management, sir, because the minister or the senior public servants can't manage everything and supervise everything. And therefore, there's recognition, for example, that supervisors in works ministries have not been as effective as they ought to be in managing their human resources and their financial resources as well. So, and therefore, the training elements and monies being placed in the budget, in the estimates on the whole for this is key. So, management training initiative offering contracts to young professionals between ages 25 and 35 to enhance their professional careers and to gain work experience. They're being paid $6,000 a month to have training to move towards senior public service positions is also key, because I think that during the last few years we have not spent enough money and resources in terms of training for senior public service positions. And this is required. I know that under the administration of the late Honourable Owen Officer, monies were spent for senior public servants who are moving towards permanent secretary positions, to go overseas and train at Harvard University, Harvard Business School, for instance. So this is providing the opportunity again for this kind of initiative to take place. And this is key in our country, because we have to have not only our middle-level management in the public service and private sector, sir, be fit for purpose, but also our top public officers, sir. Parental training, key, sir. Parental training in this country. We all know, sir, we all have to admit, yes, that it is easy to get a child physically, but a lot of our people get children that they're not emotionally, psychologically, or financially prepared to have and to be able to raise and to give the opportunity to be the best citizen that they can be. And so it's for this reason, too, that I took a personal decision, as I've said, I believe in this Parliament, at the start of this year to join Parados, sir, to give Parados assistance even before I end my elective career in politics, because this is one of the key areas and elements of our country, of our society that we need. And therefore, the parental training support for parents who need knowledge and help in parenting, sir, is a key factor to help this society move along. So training in conflict resolution, and again, this is very important. So we haven't always been the best that we can be in educating and training our people how to resolve conflicts. And I must say, sir, the foundation that I've had now I've been patron of for 10 years, coexistent with my entry into this Parliament, sir, has focused on that from the start, and we've had training programs, 5 of them, conflict resolution, teamwork, and problem solving, critical thinking. These are areas that we have not always trained our people in terms of our schooling and otherwise. And the Honourable Prime Minister spoke about that yesterday in terms of our need to better our conflict resolution processes, and the fact that monies is provided in these estimates to better our ability and our tolerance in terms of conflict resolution and teamwork and problem solving. So all of these are key, sir, to the development of our country, just as much as housing is, and the thrust of this administration to provide 10,000 houses in the 5-year period, sir, is also key, because people need shelter. And the affordable housing that is being provided by this administration under the leadership of the Honourable Member for St. George South, sir, is commendable and needs to have been done a long time ago, sir, because affordable housing is key. And we have too many of our constituents who speak about wanting housing, sir, wanting as is their right to own a piece of this rock, but not being given the opportunity to do so, sir. And therefore, the provision in the Honourable Member for St. Michael North East's speech yesterday about green climate funding, sir, and the application to the Green Climate Fund Board for, I think it is $50 million, sir, to assist with housing, providing housing for people in this country who otherwise would never perhaps own a home. It's commendable and has to be supported as we move towards housing by both the public and private sector, sir, within the context as well of 10% of public housing, state housing being reserved for people with disabilities who otherwise would not be able as well to own a house. So road repairs, key issue. As the Honourable Prime Minister said, sir, within the town hall meetings, and we didn't have to go to town hall meetings to know that. This year especially, one of the major issues has been the state of our roads, sir. But that has not been by happen chance, sir, and the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister has a difficult task because she came and found, certainly in 2017, a report that said that 70% of the roads in Barbados were in a state of disrepair and needed repairing. The fact of the matter, sir, is that Barbados has the largest road network system in the world per square mile. Over 1,900 kilometers of road, 1,200 miles of road for 166 square mile country. That works out, sir, to over 7 miles of road for every square mile in this country. No country in the world has that amount of roads. And there's reason for that. Because these roads were tracks, sir, started as tracks in slavery and our plantation economy after slavery. And we all know that Barbados at one time was the leading, quote unquote, sugar colony in the world. Or slave colony, I should say, sir, in the world. That slavery, the code laws and the slave codes began here in this Barbados in the 1660s, sir, and were then replicated throughout the British Commonwealth and Africa and the countries that the 8 colonial powers of Europe divided up among themselves. And that's the genesis of our large road networks that were built to take out the cane to the plantations, to take out the cane, in the plantations to the factories, sir. And that's it, sir. So, all our roads can't be repaired at one time, the 70% that need repairing, sir. It has to be a process. The ministry, as I said in the estimates last week, Wednesday, I think perhaps needs to make it clear to the people on the basis of how they prioritize which roads should be repaired, sir. I'm thankful, sir, that Rotterdam Road, which I've been clamoring for to be repaired for 11 years since I became a candidate, sir, has been started, sir. $4 million, a lot of money, sir, to be started, and that Sign Hill Tenantry Road has been repaired in 4 days, sir, very quickly. But as the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister said in the debate last week, sir, I've asked for at least 20 others, more than 20 others to be repaired, but I accept that it takes time, sir, and I'm trying to tell my constituents to manage their expectations, and we look forward to, at the end of the term, most of the 20 plus roads in St. James North that are in dire state of repair being repaired, sir. After all, we have $27.6 million in CAF Road Rehabilitation Program to repair. We have 240 odd million from the Chinese for Scotland District. We have 27 million voted in this Parliament last week for road repairs, sir. And we look forward to this bugbear being addressed. So the construction projects of which we have heard of and which the Honourable Prime Minister spoke about yesterday, we look forward to the start, sir, because construction projects getting off the ground means employment for our people, sir. And within that context of employment and construction projects, sir, I too urge in this Parliament, as I've done previously, both inside and outside of this Parliament, my constituents and indeed the whole of Barbados to take part in the extensive training initiatives that we have orchestrated, sir. There's no excuse once you are able to do them. National Transformation Initiatives, sir, ably led by Dr. Alison Leacock. We have many programs in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, sir, training initiatives. We have the citizenship program, sir, because gone are the days where you can depend only on having one skill. So this has to be an era whereby our citizens are multi-tasked and multi-skilled to be able to adjust and as the jobs, as the labor market requires, sir. Because Barbadians, sir, and I've said this and I make no shame, Barbadians must be the first call for jobs, sir. So I can't accept a situation where people call each of us and say, MP, we want a job, I want a job. when we have the training opportunities and money, the construction gateway program, which actually paying you a stipend, which is giving you as well apprenticeship opportunities for training in different tasks and in trades to make you capable and able to hold down a sustainable job in this job market, sir. Within the context of all that has happened, sir, this administration has been able to find a second salary increase for public servants in less than 5 years, sir. Compared to the time, the last decade, sir, immediately before May 2018, when public servants had one salary increase in 10 years, in the last decade, sir, plus, of course, 4,000 layoffs in 2013, sir. And that is commendable, sir, to bring the public officers into this berry, sir, and a serious attempt being made to deal with the cost of living with a cap on the fuel tax, sir, and of course the increase in personal income tax allowance for pensioners from $40,000 to $45,000, sir, as the Honourable Member for St. James South spoke of just now. So continuing on the social reform, sir, we recognize that educational reform is key, sir, because Barbados has always had a lead in terms of our education, but the colonial education that we inherited, sir, on independence has long past served us, sir. And we have to, educational reform has to be a key. And the Honourable Member for St. Philip West, sir, no doubt has the ability and capacity to lead us, to lead this initiative, sir. I really urge her to have this on stream by the time we reach next year's estimates, sir. I know that $40 million is being borrowed from the IDB, sir, and that this month itself, this program was supposed to start in terms of reform of the educational sector over the next 5 years. And 4 components of that reform include curriculum reform, which is long since past, sir, because we have to reform what we teach our children to make them ready for the job market, sir, within the context that about 65% of our students are being educated now for jobs that don't exist. We have to create more jobs in this country, a wider job market in this country for our young people. And that means, of course, creating new industries and new businesses, sir, and of course, tied up in that is immigration reform as well, because we need more people in this country to generate more money circulating within this country, sir. And of course, in addition to curriculum reform, sir, and I'm sure the Honourable Minister of Education will speak more on this when she has her opportunity to in this budget debate, but in addition to curriculum reform is the thrust and reform in terms of inclusive education, sir, key. Because special needs children have to be accounted for and given the opportunity to fulfill their potential and their talents like everybody else has that right, sir. And I know the Ministry of Education is beneficiary of some studies, more recent studies, sir, on this, like a study by the Caribbean Development Bank, sir, speaking towards inclusive education for children with special needs, sir. And that is key in terms of our reform as well, sir. Law reform, sir, can't be left out because law reform has to deal with people and adjusting this society in terms of social advancement of our people, sir. And this government was correct and took an extremely wise and visionary decision in forming a law reform commission a few years back, sir. That commission, of course, has shown its worth, sir, as has been said, retaining a top legal brain to have a draft Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill, sir, which we've heard about and spoken about, sir, and which should come, well, certainly is before the ministry, sir, and it is just that the National Advisory Committee, now that we've had the national policy document, sir, and we're finishing off stakeholders meetings very soon. Tomorrow we have one of our final meetings, sir, with the women's groups, the men's groups, BARP, the youth groups, sir. And once we sign off on that national policy document, sir, and make sure that the draft legislation is coherent and in coordination with the policy, sir, to finally have the ministry look at it for onward progress for Cabinet's consideration, sir, and hopefully I will be standing up in this Parliament in the next few months debating the enactment of a Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill, sir, because this is important. But the Law Reform Commission also must have as its mandate to remove all the archaic colonial laws that we inherited on independence, sir, and because of the Savings Clause, we had to continue for a while. So, but time has long passed where laws that were enacted in this Parliament that did not represent the people of Barbados, the majority people, laws passed 100 years ago, sir, are abolished, sir. We have abolished some. We abolished the Prevention of Corruption Act, that was a 1929 act, and replaced it, sir, an act that the then Prime Minister, sir, who I notice has arisen from his sleep again, as he unfortunately does probably once every 5 years. He has said that that act passed in 1929 in Barbados based on a 1917 UK act was good enough for Barbados, sir. I don't know which world he lived in, but we've abolished that, sir. We have others to abolish, sir. So, quite honestly, sir, the Child Justice Bill and the Child Protection Bill can't come before this House for debate any sooner, sir. And we quite honestly, sir, need to reflect, sir. We need to reflect as parliamentarians on whether we did our best for our most vulnerable children, especially girls who found themselves in government industrial schools, sir. And we all have to take responsibility, sir, because as the Honourable Member for Christchurch East, he said, sir, Cabinet had approved a Child Justice Bill in May 2019, sir. And we all know, sir, what happened in the interim from 3 years ago, sir, in terms of COVID and everything else. But still, we ought to reflect on whether we could have had these bills before Parliament earlier and debated such that the judiciary did not have to rule what I believe that certainly all of us lawyers knew, that parts of that bill, reformatory bill, sir, which was enacted again in the third decade of the 20th century, whether that it was unconstitutional, sir. We all knew that wondering, you can't put a 13-year-old girl in government industrial school for a minimum of 3 years, sir. For wandering, for just being out on the street, when she had social problems at home or was being physically or sexually abused, sir. And the truth is that in some cases, mothers before a court telling the magistrate that I can't deal with my child, send it to GIS, sir. Absolutely unacceptable. So we need to get these bills, sir, which are now approved by Cabinet. I believe the Child Protection Bill is laid, sir. We need to get them on debate in this Parliament as soon as possible, sir. When I was Home Affairs Minister and I used to visit the girls' industrial schools, sir, invariably I used to cry, sir, to see girls in there confined like this, sir. And I released many of them, and boys too, sir, such that by the time I was no longer minister, sir, the numbers there had been reduced drastically, and and I had said, look, and I had a pact with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, sir, that those released would go in the Youth Corps, and many of them went in there, sir. But of course, the Youth Corps was curtailed as a result of the pandemic as well, sir. Of course, it is tremendous to see that the Youth Corps is back on stream. $8.5 million is voted for it in this estimate, sir. And again, all of that is part of giving our youth, our young people, an opportunity, sir, to progress in this country and to realize their full talents, sir. So this administration is giving young people not only a first opportunity, sir, with free education at point of delivery, sir, including those at University of the West Indies, who we made their education free again, immediately 6 weeks after coming into office in May 2018, free university education again, sir. We're giving them a second chance as well with all the training programs that we have, sir. And we're giving them a third chance too with the National Youth Corps, sir. So there's no excuse for our youth, sir, and for them to say that nobody ain't helping me, the government ain't helping me, sir. It is a question of taking advantage of all the opportunities which we have been giving them, sir. Within the context of St. James North, sir, my beloved constituency, I'm glad to see that there is funding for climate funding, sir. Within the context, and the Ministry of Public Works has assured me that monies will be used to engage a consultancy to come up with a feasible solution to the drainage problem and the flooding problem in Trent, for instance, and in other parts of the constituency, sir. We must address the coastal drainage and erosion issue in Roadview and in other areas, sir. And there's money which is being tackled from green funding, which would be utilized for that purpose, sir. Zone 1 regulations need to be addressed, sir, and the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South East has recognized that, sir. And I hope that when I stand up, God willing, sir, to speak in this debate next year, that we have rationalized the Zone 1 regulations such that the many areas in my constituency which are affected by it will be relieved from this purpose, sir, because water as well is a fundamental human right. I'm happy, sir, that the Barbados Port Inc. under the Ministry of International Transport is funding, sir, the renovation to the Millie Eiffel Western Fish Market, sir. Key area, sir, that's about to start. The boats being moved, basically all moved, the vendors there being, and the fisher folk being accommodated across the road in newly built facilities during the renovations, while the renovations take place, sir. And the Western Fire Station, of course, now being utilized by the Coastal Zone unit, sir. Within the context of our youth, sir, we have to, as I said, create new areas of employment, sir, and use of technology has to be key in this. And this government is committed within the estimates to address that area, increase funding for computer literacy, financial literacy, sir, trust loan funding, sir, and this is key, sir. And money is voted in about 5 ministries, sir: Ministry of Labour, Ministry of State in the Attorney General's Office for Crime Prevention, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Youth. Money is voted in each of those to assist and have programs to better the life of our most vulnerable children, those who are marginalized, those who are socially and economically deprived, sir, those who are subject to intergenerational poverty that we have to, as a government, lessen. And monies in each of these ministries to deal with these and create a better life, and training programs, education, vocational training, and others for these children who are seriously at risk, sir, and it has to be a case, and I can only urge the ministers of those ministries to see how best to rationalize the monies that has been voted for their respective ministries within these estimates, so that maximum use and gain is obtained and that there's no duplication across the ministries, but rather coordination between them on how best these programs can be used for the benefit of our young people, sir. Thank you, sir. And of course, sir, I would end with those 2 minutes by speaking more about persons with disabilities, sir. And in all my 30 years now, sir, of public life, no task has been more pleasurable and enjoyable to me as public service than being chairman of the National Advisory Committee on Disabilities, sir. As I said, we now have a draft national policy document, sir, comprehensive as could be. We have draft rights of persons with disabilities legislation, sir. So we're on the crust to take off, sir. And this is a far cry from exactly 8 years ago, sir, when on the 13th of March 2015, I lay in this Parliament a private member's resolution calling for the enactment of disabilities legislation, sir, and was completely ignored by the last administration, sir. More has been done in terms of strategic thinking and planning with a view to implementation for people with disabilities in the last 9 months, sir, under the ministry of the Honourable Member for St. Michael South, sir, than has ever been done previously in this country, sir. Within the context of the speech yesterday, we heard about a First Jobs initiative being created under the Ministries of People Empowerment and the Ministries of Labour to also include persons with disabilities. A key factor, sir, continuation of the program whereby people with disabilities and people within communities must get piece of the cake in terms of government contracts and procurement in this country, sir. And you heard the Honourable Prime Minister speak as well in terms of the workshop to train people with disabilities and within the unit of the National Disabilities Unit in small engine repairs and lawn mowers, weed whackers, blowers, wheelchairs, sir, and how it is estimated that 40 people with disabilities will be able to be trained and certified in this area, sir. But it has to go much further than that, sir. There has to be a much better platform and path set in this country for people with disabilities in terms of their full participation, as is their human and constitutional right within the context of this barbarian country, sir, in terms of accessibility, in terms of educational opportunity, of which I said, sir, and in terms of employment, to reduce that 90% unemployment rate among people with disabilities, which we have at present, sir. And it's going to need a lot. It's going to need total transformation, sir, and reform of how the people of Barbados think towards people with disabilities and treat towards people with disabilities, sir. That they be included in every aspect, every single aspect of this country, sir. And I'm confident that we can do it, sir. So, sir, all hands are needed on this deck. All hands as we strive towards upward, onward, Barbadian excellence by 2030, sir. I have no doubt that this government, this administration, ably and honourably led by the Honourable Member for St. Michael North East, who is, quite honestly, an international star, sir. Everybody wanting a piece of the honour of our Honourable Prime Minister, sir. And the Bridgetown Initiative, sir, which is getting tremendous global support, sir. And we saw that last week. Of course, our Honourable Prime Minister would have met with the leader of one of the leading developed countries in the world, in fact, veto power, France, one of the big powers at the United Nations and globally, sir, on this initiative. And we give her full support as she and the Honourable Member and her government and this Parliament strive towards making Barbados the country that it ought to be by 2030. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Honourable for Christchurch East.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to join with my colleagues who've spoken before and to preempt some who are going to come afterwards to respond to the budget as presented yesterday by the Honourable Prime Minister. Sir, allow me to start by saying, sir, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of hearing that nothing has happened in Barbados over the last 5 years. I'm tired, sir, of people asking where the money went. I am tired of people asking why we're borrowing so much money. I am tired of people misrepresenting every single thing that the government says or does, or anticipating what the government is going to say or do and flying along with it with no consequences. Sir, and perhaps it is our fault. We found ourselves, when we came to government in 2018, with what for most would be a daunting and insurmountable task. And we didn't complain. We set about doing what needed to be done to rescue the economy, to dig us out of the hole that we were put in, and to get things back on track. And maybe, sir, it's because we did it and it appeared too easy. It's maybe, sir, because we do it and we don't blow our own trumpet enough. Maybe, sir, it's because, I guess, sir, when you achieve one thing in life, sir, William, when you achieve one thing in life, sir, quite often you have to trumpet that thing over and over and over. And for the person who achieves a lot, people tend to accept your achievements as normal and don't give them the same herald as they do to the one-trick pony. Take it for granted. And perhaps, sir, at some point in time, we have to actually start to list out the things that have happened. So when people say that nothing has changed in Barbados over the last 5 years, sir, I ask, did you drive down Waterford Bottom? Because you could not drive down Waterford Bottom and look left and right and say that nothing has changed when we have one of the best botanical and natural gardens in the Caribbean. For the people who say nothing has changed, you obviously don't catch the bus, because the buses are now there with 50 new electric buses and more to come. For those who say that nothing has changed, they obviously used to collect their own garbage and carry it to the dump, because otherwise they would know that whereas we had no garbage trucks, we know how garbage trucks to go around, and most communities can count on a regular scheduled service. For people who say that nothing has changed, sir, they have obviously not seen the Clean and Green initiative of the Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central, with 57 green spaces so far and more to come. I have been a beneficiary. Christchurch East, sir, has been a beneficiary of a number of those, and I thank him for it. On behalf of the people of Christchurch East, I thank him for it. For those who say that nothing has changed, they obviously don't use the road at night. Otherwise, sir, they would notice the 25,750 LED lights that are on our minor roads and lighting, illuminating our highways. For those who say that nothing has changed, they obviously don't live out Fort George side or in the Pine, and they can't see the brand new reservoir that has gone up where the other one was in danger of collapsing. And when Hurricane Elsa came, sir, we had to quietly drain off all the water out of that there so it didn't blow down or knock down and flood out the surrounding areas. They obviously have not driven around Barbados and seen the multiplicity of reservoirs that have gone up to augment our water collection system. For those, sir, who say that nothing has changed, they obviously have not driven down Highway 1 and seeing the new road that is put there, and they obviously do not know that every single infrastructural facility has been run underground by Highway 1. For those, sir, who say that nothing has changed, they obviously have not driven around Barbados in the aftermath of Elsa and seen all the houses that the government is fixing for the people who can't fix them themselves. For those who say that nothing has changed, they obviously have not driven up with the Pine and seen the brand new, the development and the building, the construction of the new Barbados Fire Service and Ambulance Service headquarters. For people, sir, who say that nothing has changed, then, sir, they obviously have not heard that we're building geriatric hospital. They can't see the Freedom Park. They can't see everything that is going on about Barbados. They cannot see the most intensive road repair program ever mounted in Barbados. For people who said we have not done anything, they obviously did not receive a care package in COVID. And they obviously do not understand that there's a brand new facility at Harrison Point that was built to protect Barbadians because we did not know what was coming and we had to be proactive. For those who say that nothing has changed and nothing has been done, they obviously have not gotten sick and had to go to the brand new A&E at the QEH. Sir, and I could go on, and maybe it is our failing, sir, in that we don't trumpet our achievements ourselves. But I started, sir, by saying I'm tired. I'm tired of the noises that keep going out as authorities. I'm tired of the naysayers, the doom and gloom, people who cannot see beyond their own narrow perspectives and their own narrow ambitions to actually sometimes give credit where credit is due. There was somebody who used to be with us, sir, and then obviously he wasn't happy. He couldn't get a pick. And he's now gone somewhere else and considers just by virtue of having gone that way and being accepted by them. And I don't interrupt members when they're speaking, sir, but I came real close today when, sir, the honorable member misused the word distinguished.
Agreed.
And I did not want to interrupt her because she's a good Christian lady. I figured at some point in time she would catch herself and apologize, but she did not. Right? I won't hold that against her because the rest of her speech was actually illuminating and fantastic. But if I attempt to validate what she said, then I would say that he is distinguished in that he has distinguished himself on a platform of nonsense. I am saying that he's distinguished himself by joining the rest of the white noise, sir, that seeks to discredit every single thing that this government has done solely because you have nothing else to gain. What does it say about you when you found yourself pronouncing on the budget that you have no, because you're not here with us anymore, you don't know what was coming. But because you could not see any further than the end of your nose, and the only way you could see that we could do anything else is to increase taxes and drop hardship and fire people and make life unbearable for Barbadians, you went out and you proclaimed this is what is coming.
Agenda is known.
This is what is coming. The gospel according to your word.
Lies beyond upon lies.
Well, sir, I hope that he will distinguish himself by coming with a public apology. Because it shows your limited scope that you could not contemplate a budget of hope, a budget of stabilization, a budget of growth. You could only contemplate what you yourself would have done. Well, I am glad that the honorable member, the honorable Prime Minister, sir, is not him. And he is not the honorable Prime Minister. She started by saying no more taxes. For the time she said no more taxes, sir, quite frankly, I was done. I was satisfied. I was ready to say, okay, stop speaking, let me go along. Because that is what Barbadians were afraid of. Barbadians were most concerned about taxes. That is what they used to fearmonger. And early o'clock, the Honourable Prime Minister said, look, I want y'all to listen to the rest of what I'm saying. I don't want y'all to be tuning out, waiting for the bad news at the end. So let me tell you up front, there ain't no more taxes. At which point, he should have been as quick as he normally is, penning out an apology to put out on Instagram. It didn't come. He went in the paper, sir, and said the budget did nothing for Bajans. Try telling that to the people who getting the $1,500 come the end of the month. Try telling that to the pensioners whose allowance has gone from $40,000 to $45,000. Try telling that to the good people of the Postal Service who have been agitating forever to increase the capacity for their loans, their no-interest loans, to get new vehicles. And try telling that to the people who have not yet been able to get an electric vehicle and have 2 more years in which to get one. To say, sir, that nothing was done for Bajans was perhaps the most disingenuous statement that he has made, and he has a lot. He has a catalog of them.
The boy can't help.
And sir, and worse yet, he ended by saying, philosophically, and we have nothing to fear but fear itself. I don't know where that fit into the other ramblings that were going on, but his quote in the newspaper today, sir, it ended with, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. That's not true. We have him to fear.
We have him to fear. Back your hand. Back your hand.
We have them to fear.
Back your hand. Little boy, a big man.
And what needs to happen, sir, is people need to call a spade and come out with what is honest and true. We found ourselves in a hole. A deep, dark hole. We did not put ourselves there. Them dig that hole for Barbados. And we are trying to crawl our way out, bringing the rest of Barbados with us. For 10 years, they stripped this country of everything. They stripped us of our money. They stripped us of our pride. They stripped us of our dignity. They stripped us of education. Anything, sir, that you could carry away or strip, they stripped us of it. Not a road, not a bus, not a garbage truck. They stripped us of our credit rating about 20-something times.
International presence.
UE education.
Oh, how could I even forget? How could I even forget that? How could I forget that, sir? I backtrack. For those who say nothing ain't changed, they obviously don't drive on the South Coast because there's now no sewage on the street. But sir, them dig that hole that we now trying to crawl out of. It's like, sir, to put this in a context that everybody could understand. Imagine you had a house. It wasn't a perfect house, but it was livable. And you felt good to invite your neighbors and your friends over to come by your house because it was a house. You had a nice garden. It looked a certain way. The furniture was okay. And then, sir, you had to go away for a little bit. So you let that cousin that you got come and stay in your house. That cousin, sir, sell off all the furniture. That cousin get the electricity and water turned off. That cousin then start to strip off the boards and things because he ain't had electricity, he ain't had a gas to burn and start to cook things. That cousin then, sir, strip out all the flooring. So by the time you came back, the house ain't had a window. The house ain't had a door. The house had no floorboards. Half the roof was gone and all the utilities off. And the toilet was backing up. And you, sir, said, I'm going to get my house in order. I ain't complaining. I ain't get my house in order because I want to bring back people. They want to be part of my house again. And you start to borrow money to fix back your house. You borrow money and you fix back the house and you put on the lights. You did the essential things first, sir. But you're not there yet. A hurricane came. The ash fell. COVID came and you lost your job. But you're still trying to fix the house. And then that cousin, when you halfway fixed, come and park outside your house and laugh at you and point fingers and say, look, he living in our old house. But it's you that made the house old. It's you that pop it down. At some point in time, sir, people need to call it for what it is. Having said that, sir, let me get to the crux of my speech. It is imperative, sir, that Barbados indeed transforms and that we have to be able to be competitive and continue to have a voice globally. That transformation of Barbados must necessarily involve all areas: social, economic, financial, environmental, leading to sustainable economic, financial, and most importantly, people development and human capital. Sir, from our ministry, from the Ministry of Home Affairs and Information, and also in conjunction with the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, we have a suite of legislation that is coming, sir. Part has been laid already, part has been approved by Cabinet and is soon to be laid. I don't want to go into details of it because the Child Justice Bill has not yet come, but it has been approved and it will come. As soon as we are able to lay bills against her having finished the budget, it will come. Sir, this has paved the way for a number of reform initiatives. One of the ones that everybody is talking about is the fact that we can harmonize the legislation, wondering is going to go. We all accept. I heard the Honourable Member for St. James North, right? And his concern, it should have come before. It should have come before, but we're here now. And quite frankly, sir, it went through a number of iterations since 2019 that you had to keep ensuring that when you pass that, it was the most current. I am satisfied, sir, that when these are debated, we are going to have the most current, comprehensive, and progressive child protection and child justice legislation in the world. In the world. We're looking, sir, at the comprehensive, this is what is in the train for the ministry over the next year. We're looking at comprehensive training of all staff at institutions that work with persons within the system. So with the adults at DODS, we're looking to have the social programs, increased counseling, increased rehabilitative and training initiatives. We're looking to push the educational aspect. We're back out of the restriction of COVID now, sir, that we can start the programs back fully. The farming program has accelerated. We are now almost self-sufficient in the provision of fish and vegetables. Sir, the chicken farming program has gone back up again. Black belly sheep. The aim, sir, within the next 2 years is to make the prison self-sufficient in all the food that it reasonably can, right? And that is one of the... Sir, but it doesn't actually stop there. We only want the people in prison who have to be in prison. Because for every person who is in prison, there's a cost. So a budget and our financial position, our policies, sir, are not just about bringing money in. They're also about saving money where money can be saved. It is our intention, sir, that before the end of this financial year, that we will have in place a parole system. And we will have in place the electronic monitoring system, sir, that persons, instead of being remanded, if you should get bail, but we're not certain that you can stay where you're supposed to stay, then you're one of those people that we clap an ankle bracelet on you, and your family feeds you because you're at home. So these are the initiatives, sir, that we're looking, not as generating income, but as helping the government to save money where money can be saved. With respect to the young persons, sir, at the government industrial school, you would have seen recently, sir, a donation of a fully equipped spa set. So they could do cosmetology, nails, hair, everything. The boys also got a whole barbering salon with the chair, all the equipment and everything like that. So we are pushing the CVQs for the students at the government industrial school. The aim is that everybody who passes through there, you're not there because you want to be. You're there because you have to be. While you have to be with us as a ward of the state, it is our duty to ensure that you learn something and you come out better equipped than when you went in. Persons very likely saw on the weekend the initiative, the MOU signed between the government industrial school and the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute, where persons can transition from the government industrial school straight into SJPA and learn a skill and get certification. So all of the initiatives are being there. We also start looking at the roster of persons who make up the academic and support staff at the government industrial school. So we have persons who are fit for purpose. One good thing coming out of COVID, sir, is that we have become accustomed to doing online learning, online programs, online courses. And we plan to use the online system to try to equate the educational opportunities for the students at the government industrial school to allow them, where you can't find persons to actually come in and teach them, as much as possible, you'll be able to provide the schooling specific for them and at their stages. So a lot is being done in that respect. And the intention, sir, is that we have to be able to help those who've come into conflict with the law, to put them in a position to not have to come back into the system, to be able to become useful members of society by learning a skill or having something marketable where you can go out and earn without having to depend on anybody else. Or if you have to depend on anybody else, you have a certifiable skill and a certified skill that puts you on a level platform with those who might not have had the years subtracted from their life occasioned by a stay at the instance of government. So with respect to the broader part of the ministry, there has been a strong focus recently on citizen engagement. I must commend the Government Information Service, sir, in particular. I had cause to make certain statements about the fact that it needed to come kicking and screaming into this century. But I will say, sir, for those who follow GIS online, on Instagram, Facebook, or even watch CBC, you will see that there has been a plethora of information coming out of the Government Information Service. Never before has the government of Barbados been as engaged with the citizens of Barbados as this administration has been, especially over the last 2 years. Sir, you have the one-on-one programs, you have the public affairs programs, you have the information extras, you have constant information coming out of the Government Information Service, sir. And all these keep our citizens informed. Once upon a time, so you'd be driving on the road and then you can't pass because the road dig up or something going on. No, unless it's an emergency, and even if it's an emergency, the information goes out immediately thereafter. You know where roadworks are happening on any given day. You know where waterworks is doing anything on any given day. If Light and Power has to be doing something that involves a truck blocking the road, you know where that's happening on any given day. You can anticipate. You know if your water is back on in your area before you come home. So we have engaged our citizenry at every single level. And these things have a cost. These things have a cost. And what people don't realize when we talk about how the ambitious plan that this government had when it first came in, how it has been slowed down. It is not just the ashfall and COVID, sir, and Hurricane Elsa having brought the works to a halt. It is that they set some of the works back that we then had to recover that ground again. So when you ask why we couldn't reduce taxes, and sir, if we go back to the hitherto referred to erroneously as distinguished person, right? He went to town on the fact that there were going to be this swath of taxes to cripple Barbadians. When no taxes were announced, the backup position was, well, you ain't removing them. He went from, there can be a lot, there can be a lot, there can be a lot, Barbados should fear, there can be a lot, the government can do this to winner, there can be a lot, to get in none. And the backup, fallback position is, but, okay, they ain't bring none, but they ain't take off none. So all of what we're doing now has to be paid for. The roads cost money. The mains program costs money. To keep Barbados clean costs money. To educate our children from cradle to grave costs money. To fix the hospital costs money. To build the headquarters for the fire service and ambulance service costs money. To be able to give our people the $1,500 costs money. To be able to increase the benefits for the pensioners costs money. The buses cost money. The garbage trucks cost money. It was easy for them to say they didn't spend as much as we did because you didn't spend because you had it. Nobody wanted to lend you a cent. You couldn't spend it because you couldn't borrow it. And because you couldn't borrow it, you couldn't do anything. We have done, sir, a berriffle of things. And we had to borrow money to do it. And I hear some persons in the middle class were hoping, sir, that the RSP, our registered retirement savings, our RSP benefits to come back in, or the charitable donation benefits to come out, or other things. Sir, and I hope that in time they do. And I know that if we had the space to do it, we would. But we are not out of the woods yet. We are growing. We are eking out of that dark hole, sir. We are approaching the top and we can see the light. But we still are climbing. And you cannot cut the strings or break the rungs on the ladder as you're on your way up. You have to get out of that hole first. And then in the clear view of day, look around, evaluate where you are, and then make decisions based on your position. Where we are now does not allow us that flexibility, but the government did what it could in the circumstances in which we are now. Sir, I have been to most of the parish speaks. And one thing people have to say, if they're honest with themselves, is that the government is listening. This government is listening, sir. We put ourselves in a position to take the abuse. We put ourselves in a position where we don't have to distill the information. You come and tell us what your problem is, and invariably, once we can address it, it is addressed relatively quickly as the next priority. Never before has a government put itself in front of the people and say, come to us straight and tell us what you need. This is citizen engagement. Sir, new legislation is also coming, sir, in immigration. We accept that Barbados is having population issues and that nature will not correct that imbalance alone. Our immigration policy, sir, the new Immigration Act should come this year. It has been drafted. It is very close, sir, to coming. I know what is in it. And it is revolutionary. The factors of time spent being the only determination for whether you get any status or not, it goes. We look at the skill sets that you bring. We look at the investment that you bring. We look at what Barbados needs and if you're the sort of person that Barbados wants to have. And you get points based on that. So you're going to see, sir, in short order, in this year, you're going to see a new Immigration Act that recognizes the deficiencies we have in the country with respect to human capital and seeks to correct those by a managed immigration policy. It's not just whoever wants to come. It is whoever wants to come and satisfies the requirements, and also those that we entice to come who can contribute to the development of Barbados. So that is where we are going. That is how we are attempting to fill that gap that nature has caused us to be in. Sir, I just want to say one thing now. I told you I was tired, sir, and the thing that is tiring me the most is citizen responsibility. I'll tell you what I mean by that. We have some irresponsible people in Barbados, sir, who disrupted me last Sunday. I don't know, sir, if you would have seen the thing coming out about a Computer Misuse Act, and it went out as if it was gospel that these draconian measures are coming and the government is going to do this and the government is going to do that. But sir, I tend to be included in things like that. It deals directly with me, with information. I didn't know anything about that, sir. If even, you sir are a lawyer, if even you know anything about legislative drafting, you look at that, you don't include the penalty in every single section. You state what constitutes the offense, and you put down anybody who breaches X, Y, and Z is given an offense. And so even the way it was drafted to look official, but it was malicious intent by someone. And people were so quick to jump on that. It kind of makes me wonder, why is it that people are so quick to believe the worst about this government who has done its best for the people of Barbados? If the public of Barbados judged the last government on the same yardstick is attempting to judge us on, they would never have gotten a second turn. Never. So we keep running behind the ball, trying to play catch-up to correct misinformation, spending lots of money and time to clear up foolishness. And that is distracting us from our primary purpose. Sir, there's a fella, I don't know as well. So I listen to the members in here. When the honorable members in here speak or they represent their ministries, I listen to them and I see genuine people trying to push an agenda. Why is it that we as a Caribbean people are so quick to believe anybody who does, I choose my words carefully, who does not look like us, and who might speak with a different accent than we do. Sir, when the governor of the central bank was being contemplated, somebody went on the airways, on social media, on the internet, and they started with central bank alert, and proceeded to talk a lot of nonsense about us bringing a Nigerian to be the president of the central bank, that we're going to do away with the Barbados dollar, a whole set of things, sir. And that went around. People calling all over the diaspora and the world, asking what we Bajans are doing. So I happen to sit in the cabinet. That was never a contemplation. That was never an option. But we found ourselves chasing behind that, trying to correct people from this misapprehension they have, and Barbadians were drifting into a panic. Sir, all I'm going to ask, that the people who are doing, and some of you are the usual suspects. We know who you are. You know who you are. Stop it.
We know them.
Stop it.
We know them.
And I don't wish to include the distinguished person in there, but stop it. Sir, as we embark on mission transformation, it is important, sir, that every Barbadian, every resident, all who love Barbados, that we play our part in creating a Barbados, sir, that is safe not only for ourselves, but for those who come afterwards. A place that, if we borrow a slogan from Cricket World Cup 2007, that we can all live, play, and grow in. It's important, sir, that we put aside our differences, whether real or perceived, and that we work together, not in silos. We work together to compete if we're to achieve greatness and punching above our weight once again. I think, sir, that this budget, this 2023 budget, is a good start in that direction. I thank you.
Honourable Member for St. John.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I too rise to support, good afternoon, sorry. To support this budget, Mr. Speaker, but first I want to pay eternal gratitude to the people of St. John who is responsible for me being here today. Mr. Speaker, I grew up and still live in St. John, rural constituency, and agriculture was a staple. I would like to thank the Minister of Agriculture because he's bringing that back. And one of the things, Mr. Speaker, that was noticeable then was the fact that we had a number of Bedford trucks that were carrying canes. And for more than 10 years in this country, we were carried across this country by a driver in a Bedford truck. And at 30 locations in 2018, the people of this good country decided it was enough of being driven around in a Bedford truck. And they turned to a Formula One driver who was driving a Rolls Royce. And we heard the Rolls Royce in cruise control yesterday evening for 4 hours. And I am pleased, Mr. Speaker, to be a part of the team moving around in that Rolls Royce. And as always, one of the things I would want to do is to share with the good people of St. John how this budget will benefit them. Because at the end of the day, I had questions about how this is going to benefit me in the constituency of St. John. And there's some areas of the budget, Mr. Speaker, that immediately jump out at me that I would want to reinforce for those good people in the constituency. The fact that 25% will be taken off of the principal owed at 2 institutions, the BWA and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And I am cognizant of the fact that there are several persons within the constituency of St. John that are struggling at some points in time with paying their water bills, Mr. Speaker. And this is an attempt to alleviate the problem for those persons who will be impacted with those fees that were outstanding, maybe from COVID, but nevertheless, they're outstanding. The fact that gasoline and diesel, the VAT on those two commodities, Mr. Speaker, will be capped for a period of 6 months. And this will benefit my constituents in St. John. Mr. Speaker, 25,000 loan for postal workers, and I have workers in St. John who are involved in the postal system. But one of the things that I would want to say here, Mr. Speaker, there are roads in St. John that will still impact on those motorcycles that I believe the good people in St. John at some point in time should see some kind of relief coming to those roads. And I speak particularly of Ashford, of Stuart Hill, of Lovell Road, Martins Bay. Well, that will be taken care of by the Scotland District project. But there are roads in the constituency, Mr. Speaker, that are bad. And I know the Honourable Member for St. Thomas believe that she still have the worst, but the ones in St. John, there's some that are still relatively bad. Mr. Speaker, the fact that nurses will be able to benefit from traveling allowances. Again, I have nurses that reside in St. John, so this is something that I know will benefit them, and I know that they will support the budget because of this that is being offered. Personal income tax allowances for pensioners being increased from 40,000 to 45,000. We have an aging population, Mr. Speaker, and there's several individuals within the constituency of St. John that I know are celebrating this particular initiative that is coming from the Rolls-Royce. $2 million to support the fashion industry. Mr. Speaker, as Minister of Youth in particular, I know that there's several young females and males who are looking to get involved in this particular industry, and I'm sure that this can benefit them in a significant way going forward, and I will look to see how I can use the resources with my team at the ministry to impact as far as this is concerned. $32 million added to welfare, Mr. Speaker. I mean, how can we not celebrate something like this when we are aware of what is happening across the country? And I know the Honourable Member is very, very pleased to have this in his kitty to roll out. Every week, every day, I get requests, and I know that this amount of money will impact. So, Mr. Speaker, these are some of the areas that I know immediately will benefit persons from within the constituency of St. John. So how can I not support a budget that is going to bring relief to those persons within the constituency? Mr. Speaker, I want to juxtapose the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and whatever it was called for 10 years in relation now to the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Community Empowerment. Because I walked the walk all of those years, and I'm aware and fully cognizant of what transpired in that ministry. Mr. Speaker, I want to share some information from this document that was produced by my ministry, issue number 1, called Bridges. And this speaks to what would have happened in the last 4 years, but particularly so during the last financial year. And all of the members can have copies if so desire. The House, I can make it a document of the House, sir. Gladly so. I was looking for a fiction book to bring this morning. Unfortunately, it seemed to have been out of print. A book called the Manifesto, the Youth Manifesto from the Democratic Labour Party. A fiction book, sir. Fiction. Mr. Speaker, this book speaks to an SAT program, Scholastic Aptitude Test, that was started in the ministry, providing an opportunity in the first instance for 22 young persons to be prepped for that particular exam if they want to get involved in scholarships in the state. Mr. Speaker, I've had some feedback from parents who indicated that without this program, it may have been a situation where their youngsters would have had to given up on dreams of accessing scholarships in the state. Unfortunately, my colleague to the left is not here, but Mr. Speaker, we embarked on an elderly swim program. He's over there. An elderly swim program that saw in excess of 500 seniors being involved in a swim program at Bronx Beach. Mr. Speaker, the document referred to the Road Tennis Open, the biggest competition in road tennis that we have seen in this country.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Indoors.
And Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that plans are in train to ensure that this year, November, if all goes according to plan, that we have an international road tennis competition. Mr. Speaker, yesterday you heard Prime Minister providing money for 17 mini-stadiums across this country. And prior to that, we took the initiative to do a training program for groundsmen to ensure that at some point in time when these mini-stadiums are up and running, that we will have the necessary human resources to ensure that the upkeep of the playing fields are in place and that we have pristine locations for training. Mr. Speaker, our road tennis impacted at such a level that Z-Money, a new player in the market in terms of payment, sponsored our national competition in November to the tune of 40,000 Bajan dollars. It is contained in the document, and there's a plan, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that they're back this year to sponsor again. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we heard the Prime Minister mention the fact that the dormitories for the Barbados Youth Advanced Corps is secured, and that is a program that we will seek to expand. As she would have mentioned, we're moving the program from 190 whatever plus to 1,000 persons per year, Mr. Speaker. And this program is one that I'm very, very pleased about because it is providing directions under the leadership of Director Haynes. Those young people are excelling at a level that you will never, ever imagine, Mr. Speaker. And we're changing lives at that particular entity within the ministry. You know, I was reminded on Saturday that I mentioned that this ministry is connected to aviation. And what we're doing, Mr. Speaker, in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment is giving our young persons wings, Mr. Speaker, and helping them to fly, and to fly at a level that all of us would appreciate. Personal development, Mr. Speaker, is embedded in all of our programs in relation to providing life skills for persons who are involved in all of the programming through the ministry. Mr. Speaker, we have restarted the block committee, and the block committee is going across this country on all of the blocks, ensuring that those youngsters on the blocks have a second chance, Mr. Speaker. And we're providing training through the Next Step program within the ministry, where those guys on the blocks and other persons who are unemployed can source training initiatives through the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute, through BCC, and the skills training. But not only that, Mr. Speaker, we have ensured in the last year or so that every single vocational training program that is coming from out of the ministry is now certified. Certified, Mr. Speaker. We are no longer issuing certificates of participation or certificates of completion. We're working with our partners to ensure that these particular programs are now carrying some weight that will provide entry-level qualifications for our youngsters. The Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, Mr. Speaker, continues to evolve, and we're moving now at community level to ensure that our reach is far, far, far. So we're moving away from the central ministry to ensure that at some point in time, these programs could be rolled out at community level. But not only that, Mr. Speaker, we are working in partnership with the School of Continuing Studies from university to ensure that this program as well is certified, with the notion that at some point in time, it will go regional in a short space of time. So in terms of the income earning, that is the plan for the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. Mr. Speaker, we have an employability program that is bearing a number of fruit. This particular program is being headed by Senior Youth Commissioner Ms. Bowen, and this program is providing young persons with an opportunity to have access to employment. We take them through a rigorous program in terms of preparation for the world of work, and this program is bearing significant fruits with our youngsters. So, Mr. Speaker, the budget is providing that opportunity, that catalyst for us to move forward. This document speaks to Beige to the World that was started by my predecessor, and it is taking some serious flight. We are now in season 3, and the interests and those youngsters who are involved in the program, Mr. Speaker, are doing some tremendous work in relation to singing. I was at the program last Saturday night in the constituency of St. Lucie, and the talent that we are unearthing, Mr. Speaker, is absolutely amazing. Community development. Not so long ago, Mr. Speaker, a paper went to Cabinet seeking permission to start what we call the center management committees. And recently, those center management committees were launched at 4 different locations, and in quick time, we are expecting that these committees will impact. What exactly is the Center Management Committee? It is an opportunity to allow 9 individuals drawn from the area where the community centers are located to manage the community centers after what we would normally say is closing time. So from 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening until 11 o'clock at night, these centers will be managed by the Center Management Committees, and their role and purpose is to ensure that we have full activities within these particular locations. We are working as well to ensure that every single community center is up, fit for purpose, and occupied across this country. And I am pleased, very, very pleased at the work that is happening within the ministry in relation to not only the community centers, but the pavilions, because some of them are twinned together, Mr. Speaker, and we're utilizing every single one to ensure that we get maximum production. Mr. Speaker, I turn a little bit now to sports and what is happening within that particular section of my ministry. And we have started a community sports program because the National Sports Council is developmental, and the coaches attached there cannot do everything at community level, so we believe there's a need to top up what is happening in relation to the coaches. So we have started a community coaches program that will see us train up coaches in different disciplines to go back to the community to ensure that those playing fields are occupied almost 7 days a week, Mr. Speaker. Because too often you pass by a playing field on weekends, on evenings, and there's no activity. Now, to assist with that, we have also started an aggressive lighting program to the extent where we had to change lights that were not, the poles were not replaced for more than 20 years. So we took down all of those poles that were problematic because security is also a factor in relation to that. and we are replacing all of them. We have a shipment of the lights that are now on sea. They're expected here probably by the end of the month or early next month, Mr. Speaker. And you will see lights at all of those playing fields across this country. So those coaches, football, basketball, netball, we're looking to ensure that we can have them at community level, functioning in a gratis way, because we cannot necessarily pay all of them. But these are persons who have volunteered, who have said, yes, we want to give back, and yes, we want to be a part of the process of instilling some discipline via sports to our youngsters at community level. We have started the process with road tennis coaches. We have started the process with football coaches. And we will now go on, Mr. Speaker, to look at the other disciplines to ensure that we can have sports alive and well across this country. Unfortunately, we have at least 3 areas. Mine is one that is included in St. John, where we're now trying to get netball up and running at a level that I'm satisfied. So we have St. John, St. Joseph, and St. Andrew that require some dedicated work in terms of getting sports up and running at the level that we would want to do that. Mr. Speaker, you heard the Prime Minister mention, like I said, the mini stadium. The money is there for that. What we're looking to do with road tennis is to grow road tennis, Mr. Speaker. And we have had some interest from several countries in relation to how they want to partner with the ministry in terms of an exchange in some cases, where we send a netball, road tennis and cricket coach to some countries, and they in turn, they're going to send some of their skill sets to us. We have a master coach in road tennis here from China. We have coaches from Cuba here that are doing work at the National Sports Council. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the things that were happening within the ministry in terms of youth. We recently started a national mentorship program that is almost oversubscribed. We have to now look for more mentors because of the amount of persons, the amount of mentees that are being referred to the ministry in relation to that. Mr. Speaker, these are things that are happening that never happened for 10 years. We are 10 years behind in youth work, and we're catching up, but we're catching up fast because we're driving the process. In an attempt, Mr. Speaker, to rehabilitate prisoners within my target population, of course, those persons up to 29, I have asked one of the officers to look at interacting with the prison service to ensure that we can provide training. To date, we have 35 inmates that are involved in the program where we provide tutors, and this is a program that is happening through the Barbados Community College, where we're doing cooking, we're doing bartending, and food and beverage service. And this is an attempt to rehabilitate. This is an attempt to reduce recidivism in the system, and it is bearing some significant fruits in relation to those persons who are involved in the project, Mr. Speaker. And we're hoping to expand the program. There are persons who are coming out of the system and they're registering to do some of these same programs that we have going. In my budget, Mr. Speaker, funds are allotted for what we're calling Project Dawn. And I mentioned earlier about the block committee. And funds in my budget will be specifically geared towards Project Dawn. And this is a project that is targeting specifically those guys on the blocks to reintegrate them into society. More often than not, these guys are looking, Mr. Speaker, for that second chance. And this government is giving those guys on the blocks a second chance. Mr. Speaker, the national sports policy was approved and soon will be here. The green paper will be here. And this is providing a roadmap for all of us in the ministry in terms of how we treat the sports going forward, because I recognize, Mr. Speaker, that we need to be the drivers in terms of how we treat the sport. I have a situation now where, and I'm really, really upset because I have a national team that is traveling, Mr. Speaker, a national team, not a club, and parents are asked to pay for tickets, to pay for accommodation. The team is traveling in a fragmented way, and I cannot imagine that a national federation will be functioning in this kind of way with our young people. But that is something that will be addressed at some point in time. I'm hoping that we can solve that particular problem. And note, Mr. Speaker, that funds are available at the National Sports Council to assist national teams that are training, national teams that are traveling to represent this country. And I cannot imagine why there would be a situation that we have a national federation that is functioning the way that this particular one is functioning. But we will deal with it, Mr. Speaker. Cultural training, Mr. Speaker, is one of the areas that we're looking to resuscitate. I know when I was at the ministry, cultural training was something that was happening all across the country. One of the things we're looking to focus on is dance and drama to ensure that we can have theater again coming to the island. And the officers within the ministry are working towards ensuring that we can register persons for that. I heard Prime Minister mention about the proposal for string instruments to come into play, the violins. I am very pleased about that because we are working in concert with the National Cultural Foundation to ensure that we can maximize every single dollar to roll out this particular cultural training program. Sports training, Mr. Speaker, is another area that we're looking to ensure that we can maximize. All 30 constituencies at some point in time will have a sports program through the registration by the youth officers within the ministry. And we're hoping that we can use this as a kind of feeder ground for those sports that we are looking to target going forward. Mr. Speaker, allow me now to speak a little bit about some of the plans that we have going forward. Again, I would have mentioned some just now. But moving on. Moving on is a project that came together with 3 members of my team. The Special Projects Committee would have put this particular project in motion, and we had discussions with the Minister of Education in relation to the rollout of Moving On. Moving On is a project that we're hoping to start this year, where all of those youngsters who are doing the 11 Plus program will be introduced to several topics with facilitators who can deliver and deliver at a high standard. One of the former speaker would have mentioned conflict resolution, money management, civics, leadership. All of these programs, Mr. Speaker, will be provided to all Class 4 students across the country who are moving into secondary school. And the name in itself, Moving On, tells the story without me going into that. One of the things we're looking to do with this, and I heard it mentioned before that there are plans to have a national parenting program. We are hoping to do a program as well because it makes no sense to do the training with these youngsters, to give them the skill sets, and then to go home and all that was provided is eroded by parents who are not in tune to what is happening. So we're looking to match a parenting program to Project Moving On. The Youth Hotline. The Youth Hotline is one that we think is necessary at this time because whether we believe it or not, mental health across this country is real. And we think that we should have a dedicated hotline. I'm told that there's another hotline in place, but no information is funneled to the ministry in relation to what is happening with this hotline. So we believe there's a need for us to have our own hotline that we can be able to either one, refer persons, or if necessary, deal with the matter in an immediate way. We have embarked on training for this. We have a psychologist on board, and we will make sure that the necessary resources are put in place for this particular hotline to ensure, as most things in this government, that success is the finish line. The youth policy is in the final stages of preparation, and that is something that will come to Cabinet shortly as well. This is another roadmap in a similar way to the sports policy. This is another roadmap that we are putting in place to ensure that we have best practices, that we are able to do what is necessary to make sure that our young people are empowered and our young people go to the heights that they're supposed to go to. Another project that is coming in short time is a national youth survey. And this national youth survey is one that we envisage will be able to help not only the Ministry of Youth, but this is an initiative that we figure can assist several ministries in terms of their planning. It will be able to identify the areas that our young people are seen as being problematic for them and offering some of the solutions that they figure can assist as well. CICS, the secretariat that would normally house or normally stage the Parish Independence event in November, Mr. Speaker. Another section of the ministry that is doing good work in terms of building communities, in terms of providing young people with an opportunity to grow, in terms of the overall pride that we should have at a national level. The officers in that particular segment are also doing a fantastic job in terms of the rollout of their projects. Mr. Speaker, I had a meeting recently with the IOC president, Mr. Bok, and one of the things that he indicated he would love to see is the promotion or a situation where female coaches are prevalent on the landscape in many disciplines. And we have taken a decision that female coaches is one of those, having female coaches come to the fore is one of those things that we're looking to ensure we can do. Many moons ago, Mr. Speaker, when I was playing basketball, I was being coached by then the only female coach on island, Miss Paulette Walker, who was a national player. And despite what...
That was very long ago, I don't remember.
Very long ago.
You didn't possess any skills still, correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, very, very many years ago. But she did a fantastic job, and I believe that it is one of the areas that we need to strengthen, and plans are in train to ensure that we can try to see, if not cherry pick, that we can get some female coaches involved in the process, and I'm sure that they will rival some of the established coaches that we have on island, as long as they're prepared to be students of the game and to continue to hone their skills. I feel that is a case where we will see some positive there. Last week or so, Mr. Speaker, we had one of the biggest events in horse racing, probably in the Eastern Caribbean, the Gold Cup. And the ministry, cognizant of the amount of jobs that are available in the horse racing industry, are looking to do a horse racing academy here. We have started the negotiations. I believe they're now at an advanced stage. And one of the things that we're hoping to do is to start in quick time to have this horse racing academy up and running. Horse racing in Trinidad and St. Lucia is almost dead, but we would have seen over the years the impact that our jockeys, and I believe there's a trainer that is doing exceedingly well in North America. I saw something in the papers that he's now a multi-millionaire, and some of our jockeys are making good money. So if we can get this horse racing academy up at a level that we want it to be, then I can see where jobs are created and where we can start to export some skill sets to North America as well. The Wilde complex is one that we need to build out. in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of buildings, and the team at the National Sports Council are actively looking to see where we can either one, if it is not too costly, do it by ourselves, but seeking partnership with the private sector to ensure that we can have at that location a whole range of disciplines utilizing all of the land space that is there at the Wilde complex. Plans are in place to see if we can have 6 cricket practice pitches at the location, and this will also be used to generate some foreign exchange, because we can have teams coming to Barbados, Mr. Speaker, to practice at the particular location. One of the things that I would have mentioned to the National Sports Council is that we're going to have different tracks at the location. So you don't have only fast tracks. You have one for the piercers, you have one for the spinners. That would be twofold, to benefit the batsmen and to benefit those bowlers who will be practicing at the location. And if we can get that, then it means that we can have, like I said, we can encourage teams to come to the island to practice at that time. I will wrap up shortly, Mr. Speaker. The community gyms, we have 4 community gyms that are currently going, and I know that Sports Council have plans to order more, and we will see gradually that all 30 locations across this country have community gyms, because NCDs are something that is also very real, so we intend to do that. The focus on sports tourism, I have mentioned the international tennis, and I'm thinking that one of the things we are looking to do is to make sure that we can utilize the facilities at the gymnasium a little more, because right now, in my opinion, it is underutilized. So if we can have teams come into the country to use it for training or to have competitions, then I believe that we will be doing something good. In closing, Mr. Speaker, one of the things I want to do is to say thank you to the team at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment. I have been there for just over a year now, and I think I'm very, very pleased in terms of what we would have produced over that period of time. We continue, and they continue to be proactive in terms of how we treat to sports, how we treat to our young people. Plans are in place that if sports and our young people do what they're supposed to do, then it will redound to the empowerment of communities, which is the next part of my ministry. So, I fully support this budget. I thank the Prime Minister for the input of funds to do what we're supposed to do at community level. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to say to you that as long as I'm sitting in the chair, that you'll continue to see a ministry that is proactive. You continue to see a ministry that put young people first, because incidentally, this is supposed to be the year of the youth, and we have done some things that are youth-oriented, more so than before. For example, the Beach to the World is cut off at 29 for a specific reason, because that is our target age. One of the things that you will see going forward is that 90% of any of the programs coming out of the ministry this year, that the MCs will be young persons going forward. We have secured a block of 30 minutes at the CBC to have programs that will focus on not only the youth, sports, and community empowerment, and that is something that will come on stream very, very soon. So, Mr. Speaker, I have said before on several occasions, and I will say it here again in Parliament, that it is a good time to be a young person in this country at this time under the Barbados Labour Party. I am obliged.
Honourable Member for Christchurch West.
Mr. Speaker, I beg the suspension of the chamber until 2:30 for lunch. 2:30.
Question that this honourable chamber be suspended until 2:30 p.m. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This Honourable Chairman stands suspended until 2:30 p.m.